call May 17th Conservation Commission meeting to order. Pursuant to the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over Lunenburg Public Access Channel. We'll start with a roll call. Richard Bursch is present. Todd Dwyer. Here. Bob Pease. Tom Bertram. Right here. Carl Luck. Here. Jack Rabbit. Present. Ken Jones. Thrilled to be here. Always. And we'll start with any public comment or announcements from the commission.
Perhaps worthy of note out of our Stormwater Committee, we do have the cruise night coming up on the 14th, and what we will be doing is basically auctioning off a compost bin and a rain barrel. And also, we'll be selling them in a combination for $80. There will be a silent auction for the ones we're raffling off. We're going to have a little booth just kind of trying to educate people with it, and I thought perhaps there's an opportunity for us to piggyback with part of their table, and if there's something that we would want to start, we would want to use that as an opportunity to share information. It might be worthwhile exploring.
What night is that?
That would be the 14th. The Chief's got a cruise night going. It's a great idea. And so again, I believe we'll be sharing the table with the selectmen. They're looking for volunteers, town volunteers, so good night to go. And perhaps if you have some ideas, and I can work with Matt, I'll try and incorporate some of that.
And where is the cruise night going to be held?
I think it's Memorial Drive. Memorial Drive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what he said on the selectmen's meeting. All right, any other public comments?
Yeah, I have one. My term is up at the end of June. We're having a young family and everything that we got going on. I just don't feel I have the time right now that I feel is needed to be as effective as I want to be. Pretty proud of everything we've accomplished, since I've been on this commission. But at this point, like I said, I'll bring everyone. So I'll send a formal letter to the selectmen. But I want to let you guys know first before I send that letter to everybody.
Your service has definitely been appreciated, Tom. Definitely didn't come on with the best of circumstances. We fought through it for the last 3 years, so.
For a while.
Yeah.
You can still work on the trails, though.
Yeah, I the trails and everything. Tom, that's not going to stop.
Being in the field for 30 years, never say never. There's an example sitting right next to you. Ken was on the board, left for a while, came back. Don't leave it out of the realm of possibility of doing the same thing when your kids get a little bit older and you feel you have a little bit more time. You know what I mean? Come back.
No, and I enjoy doing it, so I plan on being back from both. But right now, I don't have enough time to be doing both. And we're hoping to have, another little one, so.
Oh, good, congratulations.
What happens, we definitely be tied up.
Just don't be surprised where every time I see you in public, I say, so you ready to come back yet?
You did a good job, Tom. You did a really good job.
All right, one thing I wanted to talk about just briefly is we did do the forestry management plans, which are all up on the website, so if anybody wants to point the public towards them. I wanted to just take this time to poll the members quick to see if they wanted to move forward with discussions on the recommended forest cutting at the small town forest.
Yes.
And if we're serious about that, I just wanted to make an announcement where we are on TV tonight, and we should talk about it at our televised meeting in June. We can have the forester on site to review it briefly. At that point, if we approve it going forward, he'll go out and he can just develop the plan, and we can have another public hearing after the plan's developed to review it with the public, so that there'll be 2 opportunities televised for the people at home to either watch and get information or to come up and participate in the discussion on it, so.
Sure.
But that was the recommendations on the small town forest were due to insect infestation and the rapid decline of the hemlock stands that are there, so. It certainly is a good place to start. It was tended to be off the trail. It wasn't a widely used piece of property, and it was one that was highly recommended that we get in, as they will become dangerous as the trees decline and die. So we'll plan on the June, what is our 3rd Wednesday in June?
We would have let's see, I think it's June 6th, June 7th is the next one, isn't it?
So June 21st.
Yep, June 21st.
We'll have a public hearing televised to review and discuss forestry management practices on the small town forest. And Mr. Luck.
I want to thank Tom for his service. It's really been a pleasure, working for you, and I appreciated the thoughtfulness that you had in all these discussions, so I want to say that. But he's not going to re-up.
I'm not going to go for re-election in June.
Reappointment.
Yeah, not clear.
Reappointment, yeah, good.
The only other,
And I'm sure we'll see you around for sure.
Yeah, I'll still be welcome.
I'd just like to remind anybody out there that Saturday is Election Day, and everybody do their civic duty and come on out and cast your ballots. Important.
All right, any other public comment or announcements from the commission? Any public comments from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll move forward with our first appointment, which is Lake Shirley Improvement Corp., report on treatment strategies.
Hi, folks.
Hello, Dominic.
I have a report here for you, just brief. So I'll try to not take up too much of your time. I know you have a long agenda, and I have to go to the Lake Shirley annual membership meeting after this. But in keeping with our plan, in keeping with our plan this year to do a two-phase treatment approach, the plan was to survey and treat early for the curly leaf pondweed, and then survey and treat later in the summer for the native species. So we have done our curly leaf pondweed survey. We did it on 2 occasions, April 27th and May 10th. The attached map shows the points where we found curly leaf pondweed in Lake Shirley, and I have basically surrounded those points with proposed treatment areas. One thing that I noticed I did leave out of the memo was this would be a treatment with just reward herbicide. I can revise this and send another copy to Matt. It would be with reward at a dose of 0.5 to 1 gallon per acre.
0.5.
0.5 gallons up to 1 gallon an acre.
Okay, so half to 1 gallon per acre. Okay.
Don't, I don't know if you're gonna get to it, but can you just, the legend on the bottom there?
That was the next question.
Okay, sorry.
MST.
Yeah, so it's moderate, sparse, and trace growth. So based on a rake throw, a trace would be 1 or 2 plants come up on a rake. Sparse would be maybe half a dozen or a dozen plants. Moderate would be a fairly full rake, full of plants. So it's promising and definitely different than last year where we had really enormous amount of curly leaf pondweed, but we would like to stay on top of this and be able to treat that. The one contingency I would ask is your allowance when I'm out there treating, if I were to see another area of obvious curly leaf pondweed growth, that I could add that area on the fly on the day of treatment, provide an updated treatment map to the commission immediately after the treatment. So just basically solely treating curly leaf this time, so wherever it's present is where we would want to treat.
Dominic, did you see a pronounced uptick between the surveys on the 27th and the...
No. Well, relatively, yes. I mean, it was probably 3 times, 4 times as much as we saw, but still relatively.
Still in the same general areas.
Sparse, yeah, so. But sometimes when you're up on the airboat, you're a little bit higher, you might have a better day, sunny day, so you might be able to see more curly leaf pondweed, and hate to go by it and not be able to treat it because we didn't have time, we didn't see it originally, put it on the map, so. Tentatively scheduled for Thursday, June 1st. If you approve, we'll start the notification process with the Lake Group and get the posters up and the notices and everything.
So they're doing, question, are there any point wells in the areas being treated after point wells?
I imagine there probably is. I would have to cross-check that with the association, check to see where they know that there's wells.
I think where it's a theoretical town property, and the town will be involved in that, we want to make sure that those people are actively engaged in whether they stop drinking the water or whatever for a short period of time. Or go put the filters in, the carbon filters. But
Again, there's no restrictions on wells with dicot herbicide, so this would, I mean, if you were to require well testing, it would be, we wouldn't be telling people not to use their wells, we don't have to. I mean, we can tell them we're treating, we could test the well if you want, but yeah, we're not required to.
And it is a much, much smaller area as opposed to, or compared to the volume of the lake. I mean, generally, you're treating, what, about 100 acres when you were treating everything at once?
90 to 100 acres.
So, I mean, this certainly will dilute much quicker, where it's only 30.
About 30 acres here
Yeah.
is hatched out. That's the current treatment.
One suggestion, not even suggestion, please review the order of conditions and do the data points and the data information when you're doing the treatment. So we have all of that,
Already on my brain.
okay? Then the licensing, and make sure that we've got copies of all of that, the insurance.
Absolutely.
Prior to any of that.
John, I think this is a great plan, and one thing I ask, and I fully support that if you see areas that need additional treatment to move forward with those, but if you do, would you be able to update this plan just to show additional areas that you did treat?
So, yeah, we could send a revised map the next day.
Okay, that'd be great.
And I'm sorry, what are you shooting with?
Reward, dicot herbicide? Yes, the same one we've been using over the years. And the plan moving forward would be to probably, where we're doing a two-phase approach now, probably to survey in late June. What happened last year was we surveyed really early, we weren't meeting the criteria on native plants, but by the end of the summer, we were seeing a couple areas of the lake severely impacted by topped-out vegetation. So the idea would be to survey a little bit later, so we can kind of get a better feel for what the cover and biomass really is of these plants, so that we can better plan a
Plus, they
second
had
treatment.
quite a
probably.
bloom of the pondweed last year, too.
I'm sorry?
They had quite a bloom of pondweed last year. It really was, I mean, it was far more expansive areas than what we have here.
There's a lot of topped-out tape grass, mostly.
Oh, is that what it was, tape grass? Okay.
Tape grass. So, I think we'll use the later survey. The treatment will probably be mid to late July, so we're just gonna avoid the whole 4th of July weekend. And I think in our official report with the data points and all this, the full survey that we'll present to you, we'll also, take into account what we saw at the end of last year and try to put that into the decision-making a little bit too, so.
Yep.
Just as a heads up.
Dominic, just to go back a little bit, is this the reward, is that the one where you're telling folks not to water your lawn?
Yes.
Okay, so you don't want to water your lawn, and you don't want to kill the grass, but you're letting people drink it?
No watering the lawn from the lake, directly from the lake water.
A lot of those shallow wells, we know that 6 feet out, they've gone dry, so they are pulling water from the lake within the treatment.
Through the gravel pack as well, but filtering to the gravel pack.
Yeah, but
Which
if
is
you
why
run
it
out
is
of
now.
water at 6 feet, it's not much. And we are going down to the curly pondweed, you're treating down to that level. So if we're telling them not to water the grass, shouldn't we be telling them to not drink for a while?
There's no
Yeah, I mean, we're following all state regulations and labeling.
I'm just worried about the people, Rich, you know what I mean?
Certainly am, but,
Well, we all worry about the people, Jack, we're just
I mean, the
looking at...
state makes these companies spend a great amount of money.
Just to clarify, the lake will be closed for the entire day. This livestock watering is directly from the lake for a day, drinking 3 days, irrigation 5 days from the lake directly.
And they do quite an extensive notification process, so I mean, we've definitely kind of gone over this a few times now.
I know we have, and
All right, so the reward at half a gallon to 1 gallon per acre. We'll discuss just really briefly the approval of spot treatments, and if you can get us an updated map, I mean, within a week of the treatments.
No problem.
And make sure that we pay attention to all the data that we had requested in the order of conditions.
You bet.
Okay? Myself, I have no problems with the approval of spot treatments. I'm kind of excited that this is a distinct change in the way that they have been treating the lake over the last 10 years now. Now, they're certainly trying to update their treatment schedules and their treatment practices, hopefully due to some of the data points that we've been asking for them to gather and study. So I myself have no problems with approving the spot treatments at this point.
I'm also okay with it, but I think I would like to limit it to a certain amount. You know, I don't want that 30 acres to become 90 acres.
That's fine.
So just say, you know, no more than like 25% over the 30 acres.
Okay.
I think is kind of what I would.
What would you recommend?
Could cap it at 40, and that would be 30, I guess, a third higher.
Yeah, 40 would be 33%. So we'll cap it at 40 acres max?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
That's fine.
40 acre cap. Any other comments or questions? Any questions or comments from the public on Lake Shirley weed treatment? All right, seeing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the treatment of Lake Shirley, given the concentrations that were given, allowing for spot treatments if necessary, up to a total treatment area of 40 acres, and if the map deviates from what was presented, have the new map updated within 7 days. So moved. We have a motion, we have a second, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right.
Great, thank you very much.
Yes.
Good job, Don. Thank you.
They're a fun group. All right, moving forward, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaw, a public meeting on a notice of intent. Work entails installation of a new septic system at 649 Reservoir Road by John and Robin Sedona.
Mr. Chair, I think we skipped one.
Oh, you're right. Yep, sorry about that. Moving back up, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination. Work entails installation of a dock at 44 Brookview Terrace by Arthur Ducharme. Application and supporting documents are reviewed at the office. Mr. Ducharme? Yes. If you want to come forward, have a seat in front of the microphone. Explain to us what you're looking to do. And if you can, just speak into the microphone.
Okay. These plans are in the folder. Okay. What we'd like to do, we purchased this house last July. The property had an existing pressure-treated dock. We removed that, and we would like to put in an aluminum dock, less than 30 feet, meeting the Hickory Hills Association guidelines.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Pease.
I went and looked at the site on Saturday. The deck shown on the plan is existing. I see no problems whatsoever with the dock.
Okay, the wood platform, as he has on the
The
plan.
wood platform is existing.
Okay.
It's been there a long time. The dock is rather routine and would attach to the platform, so it's not going to have any impact on the shoreline.
So there is currently a dock that you've removed?
Yes.
Okay. Just because I don't know, is there any requirement for a replacement dock to be permitted or permission to be given by Hickory Hills?
No.
As long as the dock's already existing? Okay. Yeah, an aluminum dock's far better than a pressure-treated dock.
I don't know if we're replacing, I don't know if it's.
Yeah, if it's an existing dock, usually it's just swapped in and out.
Yeah, it's just a different material. The dock's of the same size.
Yes.
Okay. Removable, so you take it out in the fall, put it back in the spring?
Yes.
Okay.
So did you go before the board? Is that what it is, or went and...
Well, we were told to get your approval, and then we have to go to the Lake Association and let them know what's going on.
Okay,
Where it's already existing.
yeah.
I got no issues with it.
All right.
Thank you, Bob, for clarifying that. That was one of our questions in terms, is the rest of the deck
Yeah,
really
so
there?
the deck is there, the attachment points are there. I don't see any problem with that. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? No. Any questions or comments from the public on 44 Brookview Terrace? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to issue a negative determination.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Because we're on TV, you might explain to folks that a negative determination in this particular case indicates that there's no ramifications with regard to impact on the embankment. So a negative determination, this
Doesn't mean
is a
that
good
it's-
thing. It's a good thing.
I think you did a good job explaining that, Jack.
I tried.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All right, you're all set, sir?
All right, thank you.
Moving forward, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws. The public hearing on a notice of intent. Work entails installation of a new septic system at 649 Reservoir Road by John and Robin Sedona.
Good evening, my name's Steve Sears, and John, you want to sit here, I guess? I'm here on behalf of John Sedona. Actually, John lives at...
Sir, you talk into the microphone.
Yeah, because we're on TV, so...
You can carry it. Pick it up. Wireless. There you go.
Oh, that's cool. John actually lives next door to here. He owns this property too. It's a rental house. And let me just move that right there. And actually, it's not a whole septic system, it's just a tight tank. Right now, there's an existing cesspool, which is 24 feet from Lake Shirley. And we've designed a new tight tank to be over 50 feet from Lake Shirley. And the reason we've designed a tight tank is because after reviewing this and doing soil testing with Jim Gariffi, the Board of Health, we can't fit traditional or even any kind of a septic system in there. This is actually 1 inch equals 10, so it looks bigger than it actually is. So, and it's just got a little narrow area here that right away to Reservoir Road. And basically, right now, the entire area is mostly lawn. Right where the tank is going, the tight tank, there's a few steps that will be recreated next to that. He's going to have to dig those out. But basically, there's no vegetation, there's no trees or anything being cut. It's all lawn. And when it's done, it'll be, lawn will be replaced, lumen seed. So there's no wells involved. Each house is on town water, so you don't have to worry
Is
about
this the
that.
cluster that we approved last year that just got town water?
Yes.
These are, okay, so,
Oh, yeah, okay. Yep. Yeah, they ran the water lines in, all of
the end of the year last year. All right.
How many gallons is the tight tank?
It's a 2,500 gallon.
So it's a good size.
Yeah, its dimensions are 7 feet by 11.
Okay.
So, that's basically it. Just, again, it's not a whole system, it's just to take the cesspool out of the groundwater and 24 feet from Lake Shirley and putting it over 50 feet. So, but we are within the 100-foot buffer here, but there's really nowhere to go up in this sliver, this neck of the lot. So we're right down by the house where it widens out a little bit.
And what are we doing with the current cesspool?
They're just gonna,
abandoning it right where it is?
fill it in, leave it right where it is, and fill it right in with sand. I believe Dan Proctor may be working on the project, so
Okay.
he's done this before. Yeah, they'll pop the cover open, and I think the bottom is open, so it's not a sealed structure, so they'll just fill it in, disconnect the piping, and then run the new pipe out the front, so.
And I assume the red is the erosion protection you have right at the edge of the
No,
water?
actually, that's the flood, taken off the flood map.
Okay.
The firm map.
Yeah.
The erosion control is,
Don't you have it like a curve going by the house?
yeah, I'm trying to
Okay,
find it.
just that little
Oh,
bit.
right here.
Yeah.
Okay, here, and then, yeah. It's not much, but, yeah.
So no excavations needed to get down to the cesspool to fill it with sand?
No.
Okay, you just back right down over the lawn?
And that's the purpose we want, to just fill it in and leave it in place and just leave it there, and
Cap it.
seed over it.
Okay.
So we're not digging that area up because it's too close to the lake.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, here's the erosion control barrier right here, the detail of it. But yeah, Matt, you're right, it's just a little area here that we're surrounding this area. And it's basically shielded by the house, so I don't think anything will flow. It's pretty flat in that area.
Yep. Okay.
That's about it. Oh, green cards?
Mr. Chair, I don't have any issues with the plan.
Any other questions or discussions?
I think the plan is, improvement over the existing.
Certainly is, yep.
Yeah, this is great for living on the lake. I'd love to see the cesspools go away. But I'm
definitely.
surprised that there's no effort to empty the cesspool.
Well, they'll pump it.
Oh, they will pump it.
Oh, they'll pump it first and then fill it.
Fill it with water.
Oh, yeah, no, they'll pump, whatever's in it, they'll pump it out, just like they normally would. Yeah. I'm sorry.
All right, any questions or comments on 649 Reservoir Road from the public? All right, seeing none, I'll accept a motion for a standard order of conditions.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
He has a check for you. $14.66.
1466. Made out to DG Inc. as an INK.
All right, moving forward.
Inc. Yep.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, good job. Good work.
I'm gonna leave this up here for my next partner in crime.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a notice of intent
$14.67.
work entails construction of a new single-family home at 141 Beale Street by William Bolek.
Good evening. Robert Oliver with David Ross Associates.
Just grab the mic for you, Tom. Bob.
Thank you. Thanks, sir. Good evening, Robert Oliver with David Ross Associates. I'm here tonight with William Bolak, the applicant for this project. Let me fix my plan here. As noted, the site is 141 Beale Street. It's an existing 4.25 acre building lot. So as you can see here, I have a smaller locus plan which shows a lot, but it's a little bit of a funny shape, going around another adjacent lot and then a small frontage here. So 4.25 acres. We've shown it here blown up to show construction details and details for the commission as well as the septic design. So what we're proposing is a new single-family house, driveway, septic system in yard area. So what we have here, I'll go through the existing conditions for you a little bit. We flagged wetland here in blue, and then also there's a wetland area over here. I believe this wraps back around and then up like this almost all the way to the street. The site has power lines running through it here, so it's bisected by a power line. Just to give you a frame of reference, I believe for your site walk on Saturday, we had the house location, we had everything pretty much staked out to give you some reference of where we were. So in red here, we've shown the 30-foot no-build setback to the wetlands, the 30-foot no disturb, 50-foot no-build, which is outside of our driveway, and then the 100-foot buffer zone, which we carried around from all the wetland areas to show you the limit of that. House in this location, we'd come in through an existing opening in the stone wall down to a drive-under garage. We have the septic system here. It's sized for 4 bedrooms. It's 3 trenches. We have to pump up to it because we have a slightly mounted system. And just to make the grades work on site, we don't want to raise the house up too much. Would have required too much work in the back of the house. On the plan, this brown dashed line you see here is at the limit of our erosion control barrier, which will also serve as the limit of work in this area. We also highlighted a proposed limit of clearing line here, which is shown in green. That's on the plan that was submitted as well. And then in front of the house, we have a proposed water line out to Beale Street for water service, and I showed 2 temporary stockpile areas out in front of the house, outside the buffer zone, as temporary stockpiles.
The system itself, in most of the grading for the mounded septic system is outside the 100-foot buffer zone. That wraps around kind of in like this. The buffer zone is here. So really what we have is the house and driveway and clearing for construction in the buffer zone. What I've shown on the plan is along the back edge of the driveway where it all grades off to the back is a stone recharge trench to grab as much water off of the driveway as we can so it's not coming down directly into the wetlands. So the thought there is to catch it, treat it a little bit before it heads downhill. That's basically it. The areas that are cleared will be loamed and seeded upon completion of construction. We're proposing straw wattles or filter sock as our erosion control barrier. I can answer any questions you have.
Why is the paved area so large?
Well, it's drive under garage. We have to get them to turn around and come out I initially would have loved to have gone this direction with a turnaround, but that was encroaching a little bit further into the buffer zone, into the 50-foot no build. So we stretched it out this way, again, trying to use this existing opening in the wall as our driveway location. So essentially, that's our turnaround.
Just seems a little oddly shaped.
It is, I admit. It's, again, we're trying to work with the setbacks to the buffer zone as well as our septic area, the easement for the power lines, so.
What's the dimensions of the house?
What did we say, 26 by 42?
Yeah, 26.
It's a modest house. Given a 4.25 acre lot, our building area is really fairly compressed with the buffer zones and the easement for the power lines.
Mr. Chairman, I went down and walked the property on Tuesday. They had staked it out, which was very helpful, thank you. And I have no questions or comments.
I think the applicant did a really good job abiding by our bylaws. I really like that they have the cut zone. Everything seems right in line with our regulations. I don't have any issues.
When I went down, I checked out, the wetlands that were flagged and stuff, everything was fine as far as the boundaries, and the setbacks are accurately represented on the plans, so that was one of the things I just wanted to make sure. Well, I didn't have any doubt it would be fine, I just double checked it.
And the limited clearing will go all the way to the straw walls?
Yeah, that's to serve as our limited clearing line.
And above the driveway plan up, it looks like you're about midway between the 30 and the 50 with your limited clearing?
In which area?
Above the driveway?
Above the driveway here?
The other side.
Oh, the other side.
What's the wetland?
Towards the wetland.
The grading goes into the 50.
We're probably 5 feet short of the 30-foot.
And you plan to loam and seed that?
Yes.
One of the things I like to see that we've done on other projects is, but just in maybe that short area where you're so close to the wetlands, if you can do some sort of flagging or stones or something, just to mark where the 30-foot no-touch zone is, as kind of a permanent marker, I think that might be a good thing, especially in the proximity of the yard there.
I don't think the applicant would have any issue. I'm sure we'll dig up a few boulders when we do the foundation.
And it's not so much the applicant will know where it is, but if
It's
for
down the
some
line.
reason you sell the house in the future, that's something we'd like to see, so they don't say, hey, we have all this land that we can, make more lawn of, or...
No, absolutely, that's fine.
Right. And it is a pretty steep grade off of the back.
Yeah, I mean, in all likelihood, this will probably just get let go by, the owner once they're moved in. There's a slope there, a few feet, so it's not convenient to get down there.
Nope.
Just for the record, I'm still against the demarcation. I did not favor on that.
Well, and I don't think the limited clearing gets to the 30-foot no disturbance zone.
No, it stops short.
Yeah.
Pretty close, though.
Yeah, it looks like it's 35 or 36 feet in here, but, I mean, given this grade that they're gonna put in here, you're gonna fall down that. Into the bucket
Yeah, but
brush
you can
that's
go
there.
around it from the other way. The grades around that little drop are pretty gentle. I would think, for me, the limit would be, once you're outside the 50 with this, So just the zone that encroaches within the 50-foot buffer?
Just in here.
Yeah. So mark the 30-foot just beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, we can put some, if we have the boulders, we'll put them right along the erosion control line.
Yep.
And that would be recorded?
Yeah, that's well.
Well, we could put that onto our motion.
Yeah.
That the area inside, the limit of work inside the 50-foot no structure zone is demarcated.
Right.
Or actually, if you could simply ask for an amended plan, after the approval, if you could send me an amended plan showing the demarcation line.
Just showing, sure.
So what I'll do is I'll reference the plan as it'll be referenced on the plan, when I reference that plan on the order, and then we can put the perpetual condition to maintain those boulders and the certificate of compliance based on that plan.
So the boulders would be indicated on this actual drawing?
Yeah, I wanted to add it. It's really something that shouldn't hold up its approval, it's a minor addition, but I know that Rob would add it probably, like...
And actually, I guess kind of looking forward, if we can change the grading a bit on the driveway so that the water sheets off, because right now it just looks like a pretty level grade right down up into the landing area and then down into the recharge. If we can try to slope that a little bit, that part of the
In
driveway.
here?
Nope, the driveway from Peel Street into where it opens up.
It's pitched pretty,
It's pitched this way, but if we can
oh,
You want to pitch it in the lawn?
pitch it over to the...
okay, I can do that. I mean, my goal was to get it into that recharge trench.
if we can
get it on
the water going into the recharge trench, I mean, we're dumping it off of the blacktop there, 100 feet from the wetland.
No, I can
Rather
cross-pitch-
than into the recharge trench, which
I'll cross-pitch-
is a great idea today, but honestly, 5 years from now, that's gonna be inundated with silt and it's not gonna function.
That's fine, I can cross-pitch it off to the side.
Yeah, we should try to cross-pitch as much as we can going down, so it doesn't just continue right across the blacktop, over that trench, down that steep bank and into Todd's Rocks and off in the wetland. So if we can add those grades to the rock, to the demarcation.
I can do that.
Oh, we could name them after Tom.
Tom's Rock.
I actually think
Yeah, but
we should...
you don't want to do that until after Tom's gone.
That would make it
Every one of the...
I think when we finish redoing our regulations, we should put the boulders in, like, the bylaw and call it the Bertram Amendment.
I have a strong disagreement of making someone mark the wetland. You buy a piece of property next to a wetland, to look at the wetland and enjoy the view, and to have some sign that says, this is the do not disturb zone, it just...
There's no sign, it's a
Really
natural
bothers me.
object.
Just keep prodding, and by the end of tonight, he'll rescind his decision not to be reappointed. Just to hold you at bay. All right, other than those recommendations, are there any other questions or comments from commissioners? No. Any questions or comments from the public on 141 Beale Street? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to approve with a general order of conditions with the additions of demarcation of the limit of work within the 50-foot no structure zone, pitching the driveway off to, looks like it's off to the west?
Yes.
Or the east? Off to the east. Isn't north down? Okay, off to the west, yep. Yep, so pitching the driveway off to the west, as opposed to having the water just run right down into the flat spot. And any other? So accept a motion with those additions to the order conditions.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
All right, moving forward. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaw. A public meeting on a notice of intent. Work entails installation of a new septic system and a garage addition at 12 Johnson Street by Monica Farley.
That's continued at the applicant's request to June 7th.
So I'll accept a motion to continue this hearing until June 7th with permission of the applicant. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Moving forward, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination by Nancy Sullivan for work at 28 Birch Island Way will be held. Work entails the removal of trees within a 100-foot buffer zone of a wetland resource area. Hello, Nancy. If you can just make sure to speak into the microphone. Yep. Do we have an updated plan, Matt?
No, actually, we had, Jack, did you send the photos?
I sent them, actually, I sent them to all of us. I would have sent them earlier today, but basically Matt and myself and Bob went out and looked at the site, evaluated the trees with regard to the relative health of the tree and what was banging into each other. So we came back and identified, was it 6 or 7 trees?
Seven.
Seven trees that would be candidates for removal, so to speak, and the rest we thought, well, they certainly were healthy enough to stay, and they provided the right kind of environment for the local fish, the habitat. It's a beautiful piece of property, by the way. It really is very, very nice. You had all the fishermen out right off your...
Yeah.
So it's very, very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Here we go.
So we identified the trees
Starting to come in now.
with the blue ribbons or pink ribbons or whatever color that was.
It was blue.
It was blue.
Can you just, in the pictures that, you sent out, the trees marked, the blue ribbons of the trees that have been cut down?
Yes, that's the ones that I'm recommending be allowed to be removed. The reason being is we won't buy them on site. Those are the ones that were either bug infested or were wounded, basically, to the point where they're going to come down on their own anyway from banging into other trees.
Or they are a danger to the house.
Or they were a danger to the
How many
house.
trees total again?
7.
I mean, looking at the pictures, the ones that are in the pictures are definitely damaged or diseased. I don't have a problem with what you guys have come up with. I think
The remainder of them, I feel, are healthy and provide a shade value to the habitat, meaning the cove that's right there. Which is what we, and there's also some good shrubbery for a vegetative buffer to be maintained, so it's not like I'm looking for anything to be planted, because there's already a decent shrub layer.
Yeah, there definitely is.
And the nice part about these particular, I mean, originally the count you had, that we had was like, you wanted to remove 28. I was like, whoa. Then we narrowed it down to the 14 that you
14,
proposed.
right.
And then when I looked at it, it's like, there were 6 that should come down, and those are the ones with blue ribbons. The rest of them, there's no reason why they
Okay,
should be
that's
removed.
fine. The ones, those 2 pines that you marked were the ones that I was most concerned of anyway.
Those are pretty nasty.
Yeah.
They were.
And so those were my main, that's what I'm afraid of, and you guys marked them, so
I
I'm
mean,
happy with that.
We looked at those, and the first thing the 3 of us said, almost in unison, was, whoa, those need to come down. Almost exactly at the same time. It was pretty funny.
Great, great.
Mr. Chair, I don't see any issues based on the pictures, but I think we should request, just even if it's just a hand-drawn sketch, just showing the approximate location of the trees. I think that's been the standard that we've held everybody to recently.
Yeah, I certainly do agree. When were you planning to take the trees down?
I haven't gotten anybody yet, because I figured I'd go through this, and now I have to go through the Lake Association, so I haven't even got an estimate or anything from anybody.
Actually, I'll go do the hand-drawn sketch myself, because I was the one that marked the trees that I think should be removed on behalf of the commission. So I think I could do a drawing that we could all basically understand as to where it's coming out. Because there are a lot of trees, those trees are more towards the backyard. There are a lot of trees on the shoreline that are being left. So I want to mark those on the plan too, to show trees to remove, trees on the shoreline.
Well, we're not in any hurry then. I would like to suggest that we just continue this for development of the plan. And if you can get it up on the cloud, so we can review it, and then we can just approve it at the next meeting.
I personally would be okay with approving it now and just not signing anything until we get the updated plan, just so the applicant doesn't have to come back.
If we're just waiting for the plan, I'm not, if she doesn't have to come back, we're not in any hurry, just to make sure the plan doesn't slip through the cracks and nobody has any questions on it.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, normally we would request that these trees be replaced. However, the density of those trees...
Yeah, I don't think it's
I don't think
required.
it's
I wouldn't-
required. You're going to get stuff growing back anyway. It was dense. There was no problem with losing trees in that area.
I mean, you can see in the photos that there were a lot of trees behind it, more towards the water. Those are actually pretty healthy, and those are the ones I would think would stay.
Mr. Chairman?
Luck?
I absolutely agree, we should take the time and get a drawing, and I think, Matt's idea of putting the other trees on there, just to that point, so that we see that there's a lot of trees left, and we have a document that says where those trees were. But I got confused, and maybe I wasn't listening close, Matt. Are there 6 trees or 7 trees?
7.
7. Okay, because I found 6 in the photos.
Yeah, I'm gonna,
I think there were 7.
there's one that's a set of twins.
Set of twins.
Okay.
There's one set of twins. The pines.
Yeah,
I call them twins.
the twins.
We also have photos of the full set of everything that was marked as well, so it'll stay with the record.
All right. So I think at this point, just waiting for Matt to get the plan done, and you
Okay.
should make sure that we get Mrs. Sullivan to at least just initial or sign the plan and date it, so that we have it for the file. With your permission, I'll continue this then, until we get the plan
Okay.
presented.
Yep,
So,
What I'll do is I'll come up tomorrow sometime during the day.
Okay.
I'll draw out the plans and then give me a call on Monday. We can make a time to
okay.
get together and
All right.
I'll go over the plan with you.
Yep.
You sign off on it and then I'll scan it and send it to everybody.
All right,
so at this point, I'll accept the motion to continue
You don't have to come
28
back.
Birch Island Way to
Okay.
June 7th.
So moved.
We have a motion with a second. Second. Motion is second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended in the Town of Lunenburg, Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a continued public hearing to amend a notice of intent by Jeffrey Viviano for work at 338 Sunset Lane will be held. Work entails the placement of boulder on the water on the north side, a tree house, an additional dock within the 100-foot buffer zone, the wetland resource area.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself because I'm a butter.
Okay. All right, and as it is pertinent to this, I know we had discussions and questions at our last hearing about permitting and permissions of a dock in Lake Shirley. I did review it with Matt and Adam, and we agreed that we do not have the authority to permission docks in Lake Shirley. So, at this point, I did send an email to the Board of Selectmen and to the town manager, and the town manager responded that she will work with Adam and Matt to come up with a procedure for the Board of Selectmen to permission the docks. Yes?
So, are you saying that when people put a dock in, they no longer have to come to the Conservation Commission?
Well, we do not have, they have to get permission to put the dock in the water. Right now, all of the other bodies of water have owners that permit the dock's placement on their property. So for Wellham and for Massapog, you have to go through a Chapter 91 waterway approval process to put the dock in the water. For Hickory Hills, you have to go to the Hickory Hills Landowners Association to get permission to put the dock in the water. So Lake Shirley is the town of Lunenburg's and under the purview of the Board of Selectmen, so they are the ones that have to give permission to put the dock in the water.
But we still would be permitting them to attach it to the shoreline, would we not?
Correct, yes, the permitting would be the same. So, and we did talk about this at length, the dock itself is technically not a huge encroachment into the water, where it's temporary, you just have a small footprint in the water on the ground. That is not generally the part that we are concerned with. We're concerned with
How it's installed.
how it's attached to the shore, and the encroachment and disturbance in the 30-foot no disturbance zone to get to the dock.
What's changed then? What's changed?
To put the dock, to actually put the dock in the water,
They have to get permission from...
they will have to get permission from the,
So are you saying that in the future, we're gonna ask them to go to the Board of Selectmen first, or is it
Well, generally, any application that comes before us, you was supposed to have the landowner's acknowledgement. So,
Why don't we just ask the Board of Selectmen for the authority to just put the dock in instead of...
well, I put it out there because it's their authority. So it's up to them to come up with a way that they want to give permission to put the docks into the
I
water.
just feel like we've had a process that's worked for, I mean, how long have we been granting docks in Lake Shirley?
We haven't, but again, we don't have the authority to do that. That would be like saying we have
Understood,
the,
but how long have we assumed the authority until last week? I mean,
up until last week.
yeah, but, I mean, so there's never been an issue, and we found this issue, wasn't like anybody complained. So I just feel like we're making an extra step for no reason. I don't see why, instead of, we found that there is some paperwork issue, and instead of making every applicant go through an extra step, why don't we just ask the Board of Selectmen for the authority to give permission to put docks in on their behalf, so the applicant doesn't have to file with two boards?
Well, that'll be up to the town manager, the land use director, and Matt to come up with a procedure to present to the Board of Selectmen.
But you just said that you were recommending that the board come up with, the Board of Selectmen have a whole approval process. So the way you worded it was that you're telling them they have to give these approvals.
I just told, yes, I told them that at this point, we don't have the authority to tell somebody they can put a dock in the lake. So all of the other lake owners provide a method of permission to put the dock on their property. So at this point, nobody's asking permission to put the docks on town property. So there should be a procedure in place, very brief, very easy, just like a building permit. But just because we've done it that way for so long, doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. You know, that is the town's responsibility. So that's there if somebody gets hurt on the dock, now it's on town property. I mean, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered that we don't have the authority to answer, so.
Would it make sense moving forward, I'm sorry. No, you go ahead. Would it make sense moving forward, Mr. Chairman, because we'll still have to look at every dock that goes in, because there is some work that encroaches on, in our jurisdiction, that we review all of these, and then we'll just, as a board, make our recommendation, that's forwarded to the selectmen, and they can...
You know, it's their recommendation to make. I mean, at this point, Adam will sit with Matt, and they can kind of hash it out, and I'm sure they're not looking to burden or come up with some procedure that's drawn out that you have to go to select. I'm sure they want to make it as easy as possible as well. It's just, this is the right way to do it, we just have to figure out the way to do this.
So Hickory Hills is owned by who?
Hickory Hills is owned by the Hickory Hills Landowners Corporation.
Okay.
So there are shares in the corporation that own the lake. The lake is private property. That's why nobody can just go put their boat in it. because
So who
they don't have
owns Whalen?
permission. The state of
Whalen's
Massachusetts.
a great pond, so the Commonwealth owns it.
The state
So
of
who owns Lake
Massachusetts.
Shirley?
The
Town of Lunenburg.
Town of Lunenburg does? Okay. So it just sounds like a permit process?
Yes.
Like registration?
Exactly, but you just need to get permission from the landowner to put the dock on their property, so. It's just a piece.
Mr. Chairman, I don't see that anything has changed here. We've always had people come to us to ask permission to attach the dock to the shore. And, you know, before, we used to, the whole thing about who owned Lake Shirley, and did they have permission to put the dock on Lake Shirley? You know, we didn't consider that matter. And now, obviously, someone has to, and it's not us. I don't see that that they have to go to the Board of Selectmen first before they come to us. I mean, sometimes people who come to us for a dock on Hickory Hills Lake have been to the Lake Association, and sometimes they haven't. And I don't see that we need to take and tell people, you need permission from the Lake Association or from the town, or in this case, the town, or, you know, or from the state, or from whoever, before you come to us, because it could be the selectmen are gonna wanna know, why should we approve a dock? You know, if the Conservation Commission gonna tell you you can't attach it to the shore there, you know, I just think that we shouldn't say, well, wait a minute now, we're not gonna consider any more Lake Shirley dock applications unless they've been to the Board of Selectmen first. That's my point of view.
Yeah, I agree with Bob. I think we should still review it.
And it's not an issue that comes up very often. I mean, Lake Shirley is a very, very highly developed pond. And I can't remember in 3 years having had somebody come in with a brand-new dock, a brand-new location, or a brand-new house, for that matter, really. I mean, everybody's looking to replace docks that they have, repair walls that they have, so it's not something that comes on often. My only feeling is, if somebody's gonna have an application before us, they should have permission to do the work.
I guess I agree with Bob and Tom. I know we've granted approval for docks on Great Ponds prior to them getting the approval from the state, so I guess it's the cart before the horse or the chicken before the egg. It doesn't really matter to me which comes first. So I would say procedurally, I don't think we need to change anything other than putting people on notice that we're granting you the approval to do it from an environmental standpoint, but not from a property owner standpoint.
Yeah, you still need permission from...
And again, I do back up, I would rather get permission prior to the application. I know, and this may not be the case right at this present moment, but Hickory Hills was on us to make sure that they have permission to do the work that they need permission to do prior to our giving them permission or granting them.
They've actually, I think they've been recommending the opposite, because I know...
But again, it goes back and forth, and I personally think that we should...
And even the applicant tonight said that Hickory Hills, the last applicant, said that Hickory Hills wanted us to get permission from the conservation, and then they would go back to Hickory Hills. So I think actually more often than not, it's the opposite. Most people are saying, go to the conservation first, because we kind of look at things pretty strict. I know Hickory Hills now, once they have conservation permission, they're actually pretty lenient. It's, now that the conservation has approved it, it's a pretty quick process. Like, you don't have to go to the meetings.
Right, Mr. Chairman, there's a couple elements here. First of all, you're putting a structure on the lake. Essentially, you're looking for a building permit to be able to put something out there. In the case of Lake Hickory Hills, we have a limitation on the size of the dock, how far it can extend to it. We have never, and to my recollection, when we've approved putting a dock on Lake Shirley, we've never put a limitation on the number of feet. If someone wanted to put a 100-foot dock out there, we have no recourse, right? And if you go with a 100-foot dock, someone's coming along water skiing, or, you got a problem. And so you're restricting right-of-ways. I think it's very appropriate that the town take an active role, even if they come back and say to us, yeah, you can make the approval, but here are the kind of conditions they have, or they go over to the essential building inspector to make sure that meets the specifications associated with something. Someone could put a raft out there right now the size of a half a football field, and we would approve it. I mean, seriously, that's, so we need, where it's the town property, it's like a park or anything like that, you want to put a bench out there, even the Boy Scouts, they want to put a bench out there when that's part of their project. They have to go to the town to put that in. I think that's an appropriate way to approach it, and it's the safest way, and we can make sure that it's not a big hassle, but I think that we want to treat this as a structure from the town's perspective, because it is larger than, usually they're a little more than, 6 by 12 or 12 by 10 or something like that.
So Hickory Hills has a specification that the dock has to meet.
Usually it's, say, 30 feet.
Under 30 feet long.
Under 30 feet.
So, I mean, that's nothing that's ever been shared with the Conservation Commission, so I guess I'm a little confused as to why they would want us to permit it first.
Oh, no, this is in terms of they want us to do our wetlands protection.
Yeah, but if they have specifications that the dock should meet, they should give their approval prior to our approval.
They perceive...
Because like you said, I mean, we could approve something that's 75 feet. Yeah.
If you take a look at the Hickory Hill forms, the Hickory Hill forms say that you should get the Hickory Hills permission before you go to the Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
That's what the forms say.
Before they go to Conservation.
Before they go to Conservation. However, when you go and you talk to the Board of Directors, as we recently did, sometimes you hear from the Board of Directors, you hear it the other way around. Again, I don't think that, I don't think it's our concern. I think, we're giving a permit to attach a dock to the shoreline and look at the impact on the shoreline. And who goes to what first, second, third, I don't think it's our concern.
And again, I mean, I'm all for making it as quick as possible, but my only concern is if somebody is going to come before us to propose a project, they should have either their property or they should have permission from a property owner to move forward with the project. I think it's just kind of backwards that somebody comes before us, can apply for a permit for a project that the landowner has no idea what they're doing. I know as a landowner, if somebody was trying to do something on my property, they came before you and wanted permission to do it, before I gave permission to do it, I would be irritated. So, and we've kind of run into this with, like down at Danny Gardner's. I mean, they had neighbors that wanted to apply for the permits to get denied, but you really can't without the landowner's permission. I mean, that's procedural. It has nothing to do with the people that are involved. The landowner should be giving permission to do the project prior to the application coming before us. Mr. Locke.
This is sort of a generic question, comment, input. One is that I think the ownership is critical, and I don't think that this commission should be giving permission for anyone to do something on somebody else's land, whether it's a lake or land or anything else. I mean, ownership is important.
No. Attached to the shore.
But this commission looks at the length of the dock and says, is it removable, is it not removable? If it was strictly touching the shore, and that's all this commission talked about, maybe that's different, but we're still implying that we're giving someone permission to do something on somebody else's land, so I think that's clean. I think the comment was made before, on the Great Ponds, the state actually requires you to go to the Conservation Commission before you go to them. If you look at the...
We need to follow.
Yeah, I mean, that's their process, is when you go through the checklist, it's, planning board or conservation, somebody's got to okay it before it goes to them, for them to look at it, just for your information.
And have we ever got a complaint from Hickory Hills by approving a plan prior to them looking at it?
We have been asked several times historically to not move forward until Hickory Hills has been apprised of it and has given an opinion. And I'm sure Matt can attest to that.
Yeah, I can.
That we have we have definitely had communications from Hickory Hills not to proceed unless we notify them. So.
In fact, they're officially notified now when the agenda...
Yes, we did change that so that they are, they are always sent an agenda. For notice of intents, they are listed as an abutter now.
Yeah.
Not for RDAs. Yes, if it's a certified abutters list, they would be notified for that as well.
They're notified for everything because they're listed.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I had a third point, I forgot what the third point was. It was simply that, and I think you implied it, the Board of Selectmen can make this very simple. I mean, I believe they can delegate that kind of an authority if they choose. So this could be made extremely simple and almost look exactly like it always used to look.
Yep. Yeah, it's just a matter of some specifications on what they want to approve and go forward from that.
And perhaps, Mr. Chairman, you were clearly informed that the town actually reserves the right to make that decision, whether or not they're going to allow it. So this is the mandate that we've got until it's been resolved, is that correct?
And we did start this with the Lake Shirley treatment program. We did go to the Lake Shirley Improvement Corp., went to the Board of Selectmen for approval at our request for moving forward with the weed treatments.
Right.
And their new application that they
So
sent.
this is totally consistent.
So
and
it's
you
just
gotta
being
find an easy
consistent,
way to
moving
do it.
forward, yes. Yeah.
So, for the applicant that's here in front of us tonight, I guess I would recommend that we still review the plan as we historically have in the past, and just, advise the applicant that he still needs to get approval on putting the dock in the water. But I think we should still look at the dock that he is proposing tonight and make our recommendation from the shoreline of the wetland perspective.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, and then it's something we can address in our regulation updates moving forwards.
Okay.
So,
All right.
okay?
I guess I can put my own 2 cents in. How many docks on Hickory Hills have permits or are on the books, let's say?
Hickory Hills?
Yeah.
Every single one of them, I would imagine, because
How many on Lake Welland?
Unfortunately, we don't do the permitting for Lake Wylam, so.
But you do the conservation side of it, though,
We
right?
do, yes, any dock has come before us.
So I guess my question now is, there's no real process in place at this point, and this construction application was put in a year and a half ago, I guess. So there's already one dock on the plan, so I would assume that is kind of already approved.
We have not given any permission for you to put any docks in the water. I mean, we've approved the project, but not, I mean, again, it's town property, so.
But the first plan had a dock on the west shoreline, and it was approved.
Did you ask the landowner?
At that time,
Not to be coy about it.
at that time, I didn't have to ask the landowner.
I mean,
Well, let me clarify that. It is on the plan. It was issued an order of conditions to install.
Yeah.
If there is a landowner issue, it does not give him the right to trespass. So in other words, if you go to the Board of Selectmen and say, hey, can I put this dock in, the Conservation Commission approved it, they say, yeah, sure, fine. Both sides are taken care of. We approved it on the environmental side, they got to approve it on the landowner side. And what I'm examining with Adam is simply something along the lines of what Carl said. My take on it is that the Board of Selectmen will probably say, you know what? If the Conservation Commission says the dock is non-intrusive to the water and it's not going to cause an issue, we're going to give them the authority to just approve it. That's up to the Board of Selectmen. But those are the types of things Adam and I are going to examine.
And then the third thing is, I think the Lake Association with Shirley should kind of make up the controls for, or limitations, or I think they should maybe be in the approval process as well for input. So that's just my 2 cents.
unfortunately, but again,
That's how I feel,
it's
but-
not
I completely understand everything you're saying.
permission, so.
Yeah,
That's up to the Board of Selectmen.
yeah. So,
So what are we talking about tonight?
We're talking about, what'd you guys review on the sidewalk?
I was not on the sidewalk. I
okay.
would enjoy hearing about the sidewalk.
We went out and we looked at 3 proposed locations. We went out and we looked, Jack, myself, and Matt went out and looked at 3 proposed locations for a treehouse.
And I've also included some pictures in your list, if you got them as well, of some of the locations. There were 2 particular locations that you were interested in. And one was at the very tip, the very end of the tip, and then one was probably midway through. The one at the tip, there was a clear gravel area, 2 trees, and that one would also require a post, some sort of support post in order to make it work.
nothing permanent, just a flat piece of wood on the ground with maybe a 6-inch round post coming up. That's-
so
So,
not-
nothing, no concrete, no digging, just,
And the other one was further up, there would, 3 trees that would theoretically, if you would have been able to fit them in.
Yep.
And then, some of the concerns stem a little bit outside of here, more of a debate. What is, we have a 30-foot, generally no touch, a 50-foot no structure. The very nature of that peninsula, you can't go 30 feet across, or not have it come in and not have it affect anything. So the question becomes, in my mind first, is this a structure? And is this a violation of our no-touch policies? One of the things you'll note, it's a beautiful piece of land. It's a beautiful peninsula. It's heavily vegetated. There is a very mildly used path right now out to both of them. The path also sits on the side, and so the question is, as we concern ourselves with regard to placing docks and the amount of wear and tear on the vegetation in the area getting to this. This particular path is fairly fragile, and my first concern would be that, is this going to become something that's going to be used a lot? Am I going to be causing an erosion pattern? Am I going to be taking out that vegetation within that 30 feet? Also, we know, and historically, things have a tendency to grow. Is this treehouse going to turn into a screen house, going to turn into something that's going to have a lot of high usage? The other side of it is, when we've been playing with the definition of a structure, we say that it is easily removable and almost seasonal. You know, if it's seasonal and we can pull it out, it's not changing any grade, it's not changing anything, the way the water flows at all, then it might be not a structure. But in this particular case, it is, in my mind right now, it is a structure. And it will also cause additional erosion into a fairly fragile and beautiful area. You're walking along the side of the hill, and that was a path maybe a foot and a half wide off the angle, and you are moving through bushes. So what we're doing is we're allowing something to occur that's going to degrade that particular habitat area. It will cause an erosion. It is also, for all practical purposes, a fixed structure. You're tying it into the trees, and I appreciate they're not digging a hole.
Either way, the kids are gonna go out up and back probably 10 times a day, so it's gonna get trampled.
Yeah.
Treehouse or not. And we are allowed to use our land.
You're absolutely allowed to use your land, and if they're going out there and making a little campfire on that gravel there, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I think they would love it. But now we're talking about putting a real live structure.
It's not gonna get any more, I don't think any more or less traffic because of that.
I
Honestly, it is a nice spot, and there's a little clearing out there to swim, and
beautiful.
like you said, to have fun, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the kids will do it till they get up and get into high school,
Yeah.
and then hopefully it all grows back, but I'm just concerned about the erosion that'll occur in between then, even though they will be, but you get a treehouse out there and you get a structure out there, and as again, I'm concerned it will grow. You're doing something that takes the vegetation apart, adds a structure, causes erosion, and we've already seen a lot of activity, habitat destruction on that peninsula. And I appreciate a lot of it's being resurrected, but clearly people have the right to put a home up. You've done all those things, and it's working on beautifully. It's just that I think we need to consider a treehouse a structure. Secondly, we need to consider the amount of erosion that's going to cause, and thirdly, we need to consider the amount of vegetation that will be compromised and trampled as a result of this particular activity. So I would personally, after looking at it, and I've done a lot of soul searching on this, I think I got a structure, first of all, and the other fellows come through.
If I can comment, Jack, I appreciate your comments and I understand your point of view. I just completely 180 degrees disagree. As long as he doesn't harm the trees, I don't give a darn if he puts a treehouse in there. Because it is his land and they can make a running path through there and create paths all through that point if he wants to.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that he's going to put it there and do it in a way that won't harm the trees and not put any foundation in the ground, where he's using, his foundation essentially produces oxygen. So, I don't have an issue at all with that. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Pease?
During the regulation review, meeting you weren't present at, Mr. Chairman, we looked at the definition of a structure, and we looked at it in terms of functionality. We talked about, did it kill the vegetation underneath? Did it take and alter the amount of water that, recharged into the ground? We looked at all the different things, the impacts. And to me, if a treehouse is like 4 or 5 feet off the ground, it doesn't have those impacts. There is an existing footpath out to the end of that peninsula. And if you have kids living there, that footpath is going to continue to be there. I'm with Todd, I don't have any trouble with this, so long as it is a child's treehouse. If it is a deck, that's an entirely different matter. So long as it's a child's treehouse, as was pictured in the last public hearing, then I would have no trouble. If it's a deck, for adults to go out and sit, then it's a different matter to me.
I guess personally for me, it doesn't matter whether it's a deck for adults to sit on or enjoy the trees. I feel the same basically as Todd does, and to a certain extent Bob. I don't think, to me, a treehouse, it's probably going to be within the drip edge of the outline of the trees anyway, so the impervious surface isn't really going to be coming into effect, and I don't think it's going to add any increased runoff or erosion to the ground underneath it. So I guess for me, I don't have any issue with it.
I do. I mean, if that's your stance, what's to say, what if I say I want to put a 100-foot-long treehouse in along the entire length of my property because you said I couldn't put a deck down? I mean, and just...
Does it have any impact on the wetland? I think that, to me, the whole thing that this comes back down to is you take every situation on a case-by-case basis, and what is the impact on the wetland? And that's what we need to decide. And that's what our purview is, that's what our job is, and I think that's why we do it on a case-by-case basis. And if somebody wanted to put a 100-foot-long treehouse up, and it didn't have any impact on the wetland, I would say do it.
Actually, you made a good point that we take it on a case-by-case basis. A simple tree house is certainly something that can be reviewed and should be reviewed in the no structure zone. This is a tree house that is completely in the no disturbance zone. And to go back to the point that you made, we take these on a case-by-case basis. This is a property that's 100% in the 100-foot buffer zone. And again, it's hard to quantify the damage that's done by putting a treehouse in. Now you are changing the water flows when it rains. You are possibly increasing erosion from traffic. You're increasing erosion from runoff. This is a property that currently has a tremendous amount of encroachment into that 100-foot buffer zone. So I do agree with the stance that it is a treehouse, that maybe the impacts are not enormous, but they certainly will be impacts, and those impacts will certainly affect the wetlands in erosion, in traffic, and certainly Mr. Viviano can do what he wants within reason, but if the activities that he's doing are going to affect Lake Shirley even a little, that is impact on the wetlands.
I'm not convinced that they are going to impact.
But again, and you said it, we take on a case-by-case basis. I mean, a treehouse is certainly gonna, I mean, it may or may not, we can't quantify that. But I think in totality of the disturbance on this property, with a house, with a driveway, with a septic system, with a deck, with one dock approved, with one dock proposed, a walkway in, another walkway proposed into the 30-foot no disturbance zone, I think we are, at some point here, getting really close to a tipping point on this one piece of property. You can only do so much before you certainly have negative impacts on the property. So again, on the treehouse, in theory, yes, I certainly can take that on a case-by-case basis. Unfortunately, given the sheer amount of disturbance that's already been approved on this property, I would not feel right in approving a treehouse and more disturbance and more activities into a very sensitive area now. I mean, these are just fragile gravel eskers that go out there into the lake. It's not going to take much to disturb the growth that is there that will cause irreparable erosion, and once you start to erode those gravel eskers, it's very, very difficult to get those back. So, adding this much intrusion, especially into the 30-foot no disturbance zone, I can't be in favor of anything close to that, and I don't think that the commission was established to take it in totality, not to take it piecemeal. This piece is okay, this piece is okay, this piece is okay. You add it all up on that piece of property, and I definitely think that we are getting to a tipping point that we have just done too much development to this piece of property, and it will certainly be irrevocably damaged. And in doing that damage to the property, could also affect the lake, which obviously through the years and through the development, this is, as Carol likes to say, this is a Class 5 impaired lake. And that is due to the development around the lake. At some point, we need to appreciate that the development needs to stop, or needs to be controlled.
I mean,
so if the damage is done, we should do more?
I'm not saying we should do more, but I don't think that this project is going to impact this lake anymore.
Yeah, but nobody thought the first house on Lake Shirley was going to impact it. And 30 years later, look at it.
I think we've just permitted projects that, to me, have a far greater impact on the lake than this one does, so I think that this one, to me, in my mind, I am taking this on a the totality of the project, and personally, I don't think that the impact is that severe. So, that's
I just have a general comment about the house, too, just real quick. I mean, 12 by 16, that's not a small tree house. I mean, that's as big as a lot of bedrooms. I mean, you could put a king-size bed in that thing. So that's not just for kids. I mean, looking at this thing, this could be used as a sitting deck. You're not gonna have vegetation that grows under that. I mean, it's gonna see full shade. I mean, you don't get under it. You're
It's not any different than the canopy above it, I mean, a 60-foot pine tree doesn't let any shade down.
Yeah, it's full shade now.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there's a ton of growth going on in there. If I could make a suggestion, is that, let's do another site visit, and let's walk out and see how fragile that area is. I was shocked at how, wow, there's not much here, and we're walking down the side of one thing. We're starting to compact the soil, and yeah, kids walking up and down are going to have its effect, but I suspect you put something out there, it's going to be a lot more attractive, you're going to get a lot more foot traffic as a result, and you're going to start cutting out gullies, and you're going to start the whole embankment piece. It's not that wide.
Mr. Chairman, we did a sidewalk. The applicant showed us three different places. The path at the beginning was right on the very top of the Esker, where you're not getting that typical degradation you get when you walk along the side of an Esker. And if we restricted the applicant to the site that was closest into the house, that would reduce the length of the path. The reason, for me, there's a distinction between the tree house and a deck is, I don't think you're gonna get anywhere near the foot traffic out to a tree house that you will to a deck. And so that's why, in my mind, there's a difference. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would support Mr. Pease in that if we limited how far that went down out in the peninsula, you wouldn't have the same impact. Clearly, in my mind, going to the very tip of the peninsula is the wrong thing to do. I didn't know there was three, Bob? There was three sites? Three
Three that would work.
Three would work. The one that was closest, if that's the one I'm thinking about, I wouldn't have a problem, but it's a question of, okay, is it a tree house, is it a structure? I don't know, but clearly, the two that go out on the peninsula, there would be a degradation of the habitat, there would be a degradation, there'd be those things that we cited.
I think the first one out on the tip of the point, yeah, it's a gravelly area, and it is very...
Yeah, it would get pushed.
The other two were actually kind of up on top, so I think the second and the third are very similar. I don't think the third is any better than the second, to tell you the truth. I mean, in my honest opinion.
Yeah.
So, it's a pretty level area, at least up in that section of the peninsula.
And I had not even considered the point that Tommy brought back. That is one big honking deck.
You're done, Jack?
Yes, I'm sorry.
One of the things we've done on other projects in sensitive areas is when they've proposed structures, we've done a little horse trading in terms of, are there things on site that we could do to have some mitigation of runoff, rain gardens, things like that? You know, maybe that would sway some commission members if we did a little horse trading on the site to, you know...
I'm game for that.
Some improvements. If the applicant's open to it, maybe we could entertain something like that.
And again, I think once the site is done, you guys are really gonna like what we've done. I really do. I mean, I don't think we've really tried to overstep our boundaries too much. If we did, it was with good reason. And this is really just something, I know you want to look at the whole project as a whole, but this is just something, I mean, we have a 3-year-old granddaughter, and we just want them to have a place to go and have fun, you know, away from the adults, and just go be a kid. And it's very difficult on this property just because it is restricted with what we can do. But in all our honest opinion, that's about 35% of our land is that peninsula, and to not be able to really use it other than to walk around. I mean, I just think it would be kind of a neat little area for them to have sleepovers and campouts or whatever. You know, everybody's kind of, we don't have that backyard to go and hide in. Unfortunately, we have a lake in the back of us, so we're surrounded by water. Good and bad, I guess, so.
And I certainly agree, it is a beautiful piece of property.
Yeah.
I mean, the regulations were in place prior to purchasing it, so.
Yeah.
I mean, you were aware that we did have a 30-foot no disturbance and a 50-foot no structure.
Yep.
And myself, I just can't get over the point that I think we are at maximum encroachment. I mean, that is what the commission is here for. We're here to try to protect the wetlands. That's why we have jurisdiction out 100 feet from the wetlands, because activities in that area can certainly affect the wetlands. Not always, but they certainly can. I think at this point, we are at the point where any further development will have a negative effect on the wetlands as they exist today. And that, we've always talked about the no structure zone and the no disturbance zone. I mean, those are there to stop encroachment, because as you get closer to the water, you get more sensitive areas. They certainly do have an effect on the wetlands, even though they are not wetlands themselves. And unfortunately, I think with the house and the dock and the disturbance that we have allowed already in the 30-foot no disturbance zone, that we are at the maximum encroachment in this area.
Quick question.
Myself.
Were any of the proposed locations for this treehouse outside of the 30-foot no disturbance zone?
Not a chance.
No.
I don't think it's more than 70 feet wide.
Because I'm just thinking, me personally, I would be fine if we could find a spot outside the 30. Because I guess I agree, I'm not sure.
I guess there might be...
Fully define this as a structure. To me, a structure is something that has a foundation that's kind of permanent to the property. But I still think we should be giving, would be a waiver, because it's a 30-foot no disturbance zone. So he's asking for a waiver of a 30-foot zone, which we don't give a lot of. And to me, the size...
What situations do you, I guess?
Very limited, and usually it's maybe if you can make a better improvement somewhere else on the property. But I can't really think of, I think there's been...
So a gazebo or screen porch?
Mr. Chairman?
No.
Mr. Abbott.
If we open this up, what'll happen is we're going to have a lot of people coming to us, well, you know what? I can make dead trees hold up a platform, and basically 4x4s, hold up a platform, and I would like to put in there, I'm going to call it a tree house. That's what we're at, that's what we're going to see. And we've pushed back really hard on people that wanted to do this. The reality is, this is, I think, where'd the picture go?
He's looking at you. Have something to say, Bob?
I would just say, Mr. Chairman, that in the past, we would need 4 votes. Just listening to the discussion, it doesn't sound like we have 4 votes.
Looks like you're 3-3.
Looks like we're 3-3, so I suggest we move on, because I don't think we're going anywhere.
Yeah, I guess, I think at this point, I'm not necessarily against the treehouse, but because of the size, because we have to give a waiver, the treehouse that is proposed, I'm against. I think if it was something a little bit smaller, and you were gonna propose, maybe some kind of rain garden or some kind of improvement to the wetland, I would consider it, but as proposed, as a straw vote, I think I would have to vote no tonight.
All right, so at this point, as it stands, the treehouse is probably as proposed, unless you want to come up with another proposal for it. We won't approve that portion of it, so, which brings us to...
So all the members are in attendance tonight?
It's evenly divided 3-3.
There's 7 members, Carl recuses himself, and you have to have a majority.
I mean, I think I'm the only one that's kind of wavering.
So you get 3.5 to 3.
So if I...
3.5 to 2.5.
If you come back and say, I want to push it back.
What if I can get it out of the 30-foot?
If you get out of 30 foot, then I would be okay with that.
Okay. Let me just do a little more research, and maybe I can shrink it down. And rain garden, what, like...
You have a roof, and essentially what happens is it creates an impermeable surface. You're going to have runoff in a particular area. You're looking for a way of taking that water...
So trapping that water and
holding
throwing
it,
it
allowing
in?
it to disperse in. And that's... and hopefully there's not a lot of vegetation underneath that would be affected.
There's not really much...
Yeah, there's a lot of little...
Some scrub, like laurel type.
Yeah.
But again, the problem is, once the scrub's gone, now the gravel will just erode.
Right.
So, and then it just erodes into the lake, the vegetation goes, then the trees go.
Okay.
Unfortunately, one thing leads to the other, which is, again, why I feel that we are at the maximum that we can do with this property.
I mean, the other issue is that, I mean, can I see that?
At this point, are you looking to continue to work on it, Jeff?
I guess I can try and get it out of the 30-foot and see
I mean,
what
the thing
happens.
is that, I mean, if you look at this particular illustration, and it's a big house, and the way it's all lit up and stuff, this is stuff...
That's just the best picture I
I
can
know, but
find.
this is like...
So something you can see. Oh, all right, I
stuff we see on-
understand.
You know, it's like stuff we see on cable on, tree houses.
I don't think it's gonna be that elaborate.
Tiny houses, you know what I mean?
Well, that's what I'm picturing. If you came here with a little
Treehouse master.
6x6
yeah,
miniature
exactly.
little house that only,
ladder.
that only someone that's 3 feet tall could go in, it would be a lot more, easier for me to be like, oh, that's a pretty minimal impact. But when I look at this, it's the size of my bedroom.
12 by 12, yeah.
And that's a pretty big treehouse.
And you even have a deck on it.
Yeah, and it's got a deck. I mean, that's
Pretty nice, though, yeah.
It's probably half of the stage.
What's that?
12 by 12 would be half the stage, maybe even a little bigger. It might,
It looks like about 16
That's an
feet
extra
deep.
room on your property. That's not just a...
and it's permanent.
It's a house that's in a tree.
Yeah.
Tree house.
Tree house, there it is.
But again,
It's not just a room thing.
It's not 100 feet long.
That's true.
so you want to continue this and continue to work on it?
I think so. I'd like to maybe try and get it.
All right, so at this point then, Mr. Viviano's going to continue to work on his amendment, so
Okay.
with his permission, we'll accept the motion to
So
continue.
what about the north side with the, I mean, we're gonna have trees going in and shrubs in a week, so,
Well, that's already been approved, the remediation, correct?
well, no, that, we had an amendment to do some work on the north side as well.
Okay.
That's kind of the first part of that.
The planting scheme that's out
So now
there.
you want to talk about the...
Well, I mean, we're not going to approve it tonight, because it's all,
Matt, if you could, when I was down there, and maybe it's just my memory was wrong, but there was a lot more vegetation than I envisioned would be cleared out
yep,
as part of...
so I would just continue with the remediation.
You know, there was that pile of
Talk about that.
branches, whatever, but it just seemed like there was a lot more cleared than I recall us approving.
No, that's part of the
Can you take a look at
discussion.
that?
We'll talk about that
And just
tonight,
maybe
so
you
we have
might
an idea.
require some more plantings or something, but it was a lot cleared. It looked great, but there was a lot cleared.
We haven't done anything, to tell you the truth.
I'm pretty
What we've
certain
cleared is,
that
you can
we have developed
plainly
this
see the
property as much
stumps.
as we should allow.
That's all I've
Yeah.
touched. And those were just dead trees, and I have pictures.
It was just that there were branches
We're
piled
definitely at a
up.
tipping
Those are
point
all
on this
dead.
lake.
They look
And
pretty...
again, it's not like...
There was one tree that fell.
Yeah.
It fell across the silt
We
fence
just
from
continue
the...
to, people drive down and say yes, and
Tell you what, I'll send you the pictures and such.
who knows what's a level 6.
I'll send you that, and I can
Carl.
work with you on that.
5 is the highest there is.
5 is as bad as it gets.
It's worse than that because there are 4 subcategories to level 4.
Yeah,
So it's not like 5 out of 5, it's like 9.
yeah.
But it's coming back.
Well, just for the applicant's sake, the only reason I'm really waiving on the treehouse is because we're offering a waiver. I personally like the idea of the treehouse, but it just scares me on how quickly that could morph into something much bigger. And I want to be very cautious before I give anybody permission on that.
Well, I think that's why you're doing it on a case-by-case basis, but if you look at it as a whole,
Once we
there's a lot of
approve one,
damage.
it's pretty hard to not approve the next one, especially given that this is going to require a waiver. So that's why I'm asking you to go back and look at
Yeah.
getting it out of the 30, so we
understand.
don't have to give you a waiver.
I would also suggest if you're gonna go back and look, that you look to reduce the size of the structure, just because if you are gonna put a roof on it, then that means that no water's getting through to the vegetation underneath.
Right.
You know, because my whole concept is if it's a tree house and it's up in the air enough, then you have vegetation growing underneath it, you know, and
It's open.
so,
And it
12
leaks.
by 12, not much.
yeah, well, and that's my point about, you know, if it was a smaller structure. I mean, I built my kids 3 different tree houses and none of them were.
I guess to that point, it depends on how far the tree house is up off the ground and the angle of the sun and the trees around it. I mean, there's so many variables here that you can't just say that no light's gonna get in. Well, how much light is gonna get in? We don't know that. And that's why we take it on a case-by-case basis. So I know we're
Hey,
favoring this.
I have another question. How many people have had kids, done this, it was a novelty for 3 weeks, and then that was the last time they looked at it, and they ended up storing your gear in
I
there?
go out to my treehouse and, you know what, why, I guess we're hung up on this kid thing. Like, to me, if I put a treehouse up and I want to go out and sit in there and...
I think I would use it, to tell you the truth.
trees, because I'm a druid or I like trees and whatever.
The druid.
I should be able to do it.
I mean, it'd be a nice, I mean, yeah, we're probably gonna use it too. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Place
I
like
agree with
ours.
Ken, if adults go out, they're gonna sit in the treehouse, kids are gonna run all around and so.
Or it could be a doghouse for when he gets in trouble.
There you go, yeah.
I feel like we're getting into a strange debate here about...
Chairman.
Okay, are we gonna continue to talk about this, or let him redesign his plan and come back, we can continue
So
with
one
our
or,
next meeting?
I guess, can I get a feel for the 1 or 2 docks? I mean,
I personally am okay with the dock, putting in a dock to park a boat.
as long as the town is okay.
Based on the discussion tonight, that's for the town, but as far as the impact, you know, how wide is it? 5 feet wide?
Yeah, I think 5 by,
I would prefer only to see the
25.
long section. I wouldn't want to see this little piece off to the side.
Okay.
You already have a sitting area on the other side, so I think it would just be for parking a boat. This is my just personal thing. And I would want to see the path limited to whatever the ADA recommendation is on a width of a path to get a wheelchair down there.
3 feet.
You'll ever get a wheelchair.
no, it's pretty good.
But that's just what I would use for width, just to say it should be no wider than this. And if you ever wanted to get somebody on there, I wouldn't ever want somebody to say, you guys approved something that I can't get a wheelchair.
The Mass Wetlands Act defines pedestrian access as 3 feet wide.
So that would be my recommendation.
ADA also is 3 feet.
So that would be my recommendation. I would want, and I don't, so right now, as shown, it's definitely wider than that. You're kind of showing on both sides. I think anything in the 30 should be no wider than the minimum allowed to travel. And I would only want to see the 5-foot wide dock, nothing else would be my personal preference. And I would, because I don't care, given how much shore frontage you have, I'm okay with the 2 docks. And that's my personal standpoint.
And just another comment as well, the grass would stop here, I won't say boulders in front of you, but the question was, there was some low vegetation in through that area, and I would hope that this stays brown and not gray, the grass piece.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna plant grass there.
Okay.
We're just raking up the debris that's there, and
Okay.
we're just gonna
No
let
matter
it.
what else go back.
Yeah.
If we were voting on the dock tonight, which we won't be, I would be in the same position as Mr. Bertram. Okay. I would be looking just for it to go straight out from the land perpendicular, not run along the shoreline, and that the access path was no more than 3 feet wide.
And I'm of the same opinion as the previous 2 speakers.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll continue, I'll try and get another treehouse plant. And squeeze it in that 30-foot.
Yeah, outside of that.
I would suggest you also come back with a different dock plan.
Dock plan? Okay. Yeah, I'll update that, so.
So get the crayons out.
Because you need 4 votes.
All right, so with the applicant's permission, I'll accept the motion to continue the hearing until June 7th.
June 7th.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Do you want these plans? Are these your copies? No, those are somebody's, those are. Are these our copies? Are these ours? I think.
No, these are ours.
Oh, I'm sorry, these are our copies.
Moving forward with current business, signatures on documents to be issued.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, we do have a guest in the...
Yep. Yeah, we'll get down real quick.
Okay.
It shouldn't take long.
Just pull these out.
Back to the meeting, Kyle.
For kids though, like, if I'm.
No, I'm not even saying it's just for kids, but I guess the point, if we deny.
I always think that compliance is a duplicate.
You say they don't just come right back to the
Issued back in 2005.
That's just it. I don't
If they
think-
want to build an entire Ewok village, I don't care, it's way up in the trees.
This was issued back in
What if I only put it 3
2005.
feet up?
So it's just being issued as a duplicate. You're just essentially doing a new signature page and issuing a copy of the original certificate. It just wasn't recorded.
So what are we doing?
This is a duplicate and a certificate that has been approved and issued in 2005.
And what I know about trees, and it's gonna be, a discussion for.
It's one of those that wasn't
But what
recorded.
if someone came in and said they wanted to put a, open-sided shed with a roof 10 feet in the air, and just...
Is it just one signature page?
Yeah. The other one is a copy of
There's a
the
roof there,
original.
the roof is 10 feet in the air. Would you approve that as well?
How would the others attach to the ground?
Just 4x4s right into the ground? No. Why not? What's the difference in that?
Structure, you're gonna have the pillars in the ground.
All right, now what
The amended order of conditions.
So what's the difference if the pillars are the trees or the pillars are put into the ground?
There's
There's
no,
no impact to the ground.
There certainly is. If you put a 12 by 12 impervious surface over the ground, you will change the runoff, you'll change the moisture under the ground.
When a tree is grown, all right, maple tree, pine tree.
Amended order for
You
Paul
fertilize
Logan and
the
Lot
tree
2.
at the drip edge of the tree, right? Because no water gets through the tree to the ground underneath, or very little, right?
Second copy.
Depends on time of year.
Over the time of the year, if it's a pine tree, it doesn't matter what time of the year, it's evergreen.
Yes, but all of the plants and the environment around that tree have adapted to that tree being there and the amount of rain and the amount of light that gets there. Again, you put a 12 by 12 impervious canopy over there, you have now changed the environment around that area. Some places, it's not an issue. I certainly agree. If it was a flat grassed area and they wanted to put a tree house, I would still vote no because it's in the no disturbance zone, but it wouldn't have anywhere near the impact that a 12 by 12 impervious surface attached to pine trees that are in gravel, which basically have no root system to begin with. Now you're going to have traffic out on this esker, they're going to trample down the plants, you have to have a ladder to get up to this thing. It's just, it is, to myself, it is unacceptable encroachment. It's just, and it doesn't have to be encroachment today, it doesn't have to be encroachment a year from now, that thing's going to be there for 15 years, who knows? It may grow a bathroom, it may grow a second floor. I mean, encroachment doesn't have to happen today. I mean, if you go...
Composting toilet in it, would it have
But again, if you go back to projects that we approved 15 years ago, and this is the reason that the no structure zone went in place, was to help stop encroachment. And Lake Shirley is a prime example of that. I mean, you can see when they started putting little bitty houses, and then without permits, without thought, because they didn't think it made a difference, it got bigger and bigger. Septic systems, water, driveways, I mean, you take Hickory Hills, do you know how much impervious surface they put in around Hickory Hills? 3 times the amount of the lake. I mean, with roadways, with driveways, with houses, so now that water, you know why Lake Shirley has a problem? Because the water runs into that lake 5 times faster than it did 2 years ago. It runs into the streams that flow 5 times faster, so now you have all the sedimentation. It's, at some point, we have to try to limit the encroachment. So, and that's always been...
Mr. Chairman, just as a, if this was proposed outside of the 50, let's say, so he's outside of the no structure and no disturbance zone, would you be okay with that?
Again, it would, on that lot, if you could get it outside the 50, I would still think about it, because again, this whole thing is within the 100-foot buffer, and we've encroached on probably, we've disturbed half of that lot. Sure. Half of it, and the entire part that we've disturbed is inside the 100-foot. Right up to the edge of the water on one side with the beach that we approved in last year, and now on the other side with an ADA walkway and a dock. So the encroachment just continues, and he hasn't even started yet from what he proposed. It's just going to continue. I mean, we're going to put an ADA walkway. I know that in 20 years, that's going to be grass. It just, after sitting for 20 years watching it, that's what's going to happen. I mean, at some point, we just have to look at somebody and say, unfortunately, it's a beautiful piece of property, enjoy it the way it is.
Yeah.
Just,
Can I have that one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
and moving forward, so we're signing, and we have enforcements.
Yeah, well, this one is, here, this one, I got the signature pages ready.
Okay.
This is Paul Gogan's order of conditions.
All right, And do you want to just explain what you put on for where it was such a hot
The way I
button?
wrote, if you look at the additional conditions on our state boilerplate,
What's it for now? I missed that.
Paul Gold.
675 Reservoir Road.
We approved a set of plans that were basically for overlays. They were the existing conditions plan, it was the remediation plan, the site development plan, and the landscape plan. I cited all four of those sheets, because they were all the same date, and all the ones you approved on the order. When I did the local boilerplate, I did the same thing, reference those same sheets. The last condition in the local boilerplate specifies that he has to complete the restoration plan first, before he commences with the site development plan. It also requires him, before he commences with the site development plan, to submit a letter from his engineer along with an as-built of the restoration area to gather our approval, kind of like what we do with a certificate of compliance. But it's kind of like an intermediate, it's like an intermittent as-built. So you're going to wind up with two as-bills. One of the restoration area, and then after, if the commission approves that and issues the approval, it would be the certificate of compliance for the whole project. So essentially, I'm making, before he starts building the house, I'm making him come back in with a letter from his engineer and an as-built.
Okay, good. And now, has he started the remediation?
He actually has, I don't have a stamp.
And you've confirmed
You
he
put the finding of fact on
I can change that.
52 Jungle.
And he hasn't started any of the phase 2 yet, right? He's only doing the remediation right now? You've confirmed that?
Yeah, he's only doing the remediation right now. He actually started staking out where all the plants are going.
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty clear on the schedule that he had to do the remediation.
I just want to make sure he does that.
Yes.
Oh, and Matt, I have...
Technically, he shouldn't be doing anything because he doesn't have his notice of intent or his order of conditions yet. It hasn't been filed with the...
With the registry, but
registry
also,
of deeds.
and he could technically say that it's an enforcement action and you guys ordered him to do it, so.
Well, the remediation can, but he can't be doing any
Can't
other
be
work
doing
on
anything
it.
with the house.
No.
He has to do the remediation, complete the remediation, get an as-built, come to us, and that's it.
And Matt, I meant to send you an email. On Lancaster Ave, that there was an applicant that built a rock wall. I think we gave him a waiver. It was a split vote.
Bill Marcel.
And part of the reason we gave him the waiver was because he was gonna put in a whole bunch of vegetation on the side of his driveway. Doesn't look like he's done anything.
No, he hasn't done a thing yet.
So I would recommend we send him a letter, and can we revoke that waiver if he doesn't follow through with the plan?
Certainly can.
Well, here's an idea.
Because I kind of stuck up for this guy, and he's kind of burning me now by not putting any of his vegetation in. So,
Where was this, Tom?
on Lancaster Ave.
Lancaster Ave.
He was putting bark mulch out the other day.
Oh, yeah.
He put in a 30-foot no disturbance zone.
He didn't put the veg in, oh, okay, yeah.
I drive by it on a regular basis, and I've been checking it out.
Yeah, I watch him every day.
Come on, good for you. Just put something in.
I watch him every day.
I mean, you watch...
I watch him doing nothing.
So,
Can you let us know?
No, as we're on... Oh, continue, Tom.
Well,
Sorry.
you got to realize that winter just broke. People are just starting to do their plantings now, and I'm assuming it could be something as little as a scheduling issue with the guy who's doing the work. So it's good to just give him a poke to make sure that he realizes what we're
send him a letter.
Send him a letter.
Do we need to vote on that?
To send him a letter? No. All right, moving forward, 43 Island Road. What are we doing there, Matt?
Well, we're still waiting for Hannigan. Remember, he showed us the draft plan?
I do, that was a while ago. It's fading.
That was the last meeting.
It's fading fast.
It just seems to like this has gone on, this started out as an enforcement action.
It is still an enforcement action.
And it seems to me a long time has passed, and we have nothing to show for it. I'm getting a little tired.
So we do invite him back?
I got a better idea. Why don't we just give him a deadline? If I'm gonna send out a letter, why don't I just send out a letter to Hannigan saying, or an email to Hannigan saying, hey,
June 7th.
you have until June, you you have to file a notice of intent for the June, what, the 21st meeting? Otherwise, we start finding.
Yep.
Because when this first came to our attention, the work was already done, and there was no permit for it. There was a wall, there's a new beach, and we've been asking for the justification for that for many months now. And nothing's happened.
All right. Put a deadline of the 21st.
Is this the addition?
Moving forward.
445 Townsend Harbor Road, is that the?
Yeah, that's the addition.
We moved it?
Yeah,
I was just waiting for his DEP number.
183 Hemlock Drive. That's where I know Mr. Tom, okay. All right, when last we spoke, you were going to be removing the wall and some of the other, okay?
It's done. Gravel is up top. I had asked if I could put these along the side of the porch.
Okay.
And if you look closely in the water, you can actually see where the old wall was.
Can you get that around if you don't mind?
Yeah. There's a few shots of that from various...
The wall further down was also removed, the one that was underwater a little bit, it was a cutout area.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, that was the main wall, and then they continued on, and there was like a little sub-underwater wall, that's gone too?
This is the original wall. It's all still there.
You had put some...
Way high, must be pouring over that dam.
Everything is out.
Everything's out? Okay.
That's another shot.
Oh, okay.
The highest I've seen.
Oh, nice job.
I think there's one block that I left in to show where it was. It's the original wall, what's left of it.
Is it going over the spillway yet?
So it's...
No. It's not going over the spillway yet.
Over the spillway? No, it's going over the porch. It's not.
Yeah, it's
But
not
not
going
spillway,
to...
okay.
You want to push that, pictures around.
They'll pull a board if it starts getting too high.
Yeah.
To try to keep it from going over the spillway.
Well, at this point now, it looks like the rain stopped for the foreseeable future, so.
That's nice.
I mean, it was pretty rainy April and early May.
And these are the timbers on the side?
That's right.
Okay.
I know, I was kind of...
Cleared out. Okay, look at this, guys. He's pulled the timbers up, okay, I don't know if they know the site. Okay.
I think we park up here and walk down, around, past the canvas garages, around the point to here. And then I think there was a wall going back up that side.
What's this? What are we looking at in these pictures? I'm confused.
That looks like the timbers he had off the side of the property that were just kind of sitting there collecting, and he had to have that removed.
Oh, okay.
That was the debris.
So they were removed?
Yeah, and those two photos show the removal.
Okay.
Is this silt fence in the water?
Well, it probably was out of the water in February.
It was.
And honestly, if it's secured to the ground, it's not a bad thing now to stop the wave action.
So how cold was the water?
Actually, it wasn't up when I did it.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, but it got up pretty quickly with the rain.
Okay, yeah, everything's come up, yeah. Try to sign this one.
All right, so moving forward, we're gonna submit a plan of replacing the existing wall and location with the stones? Is that what you're going to propose?
Yeah.
Yes?
And the exact location, you can see, we can even see where the location was, because there are still some old timbers left in there.
Okay.
So there'll be no question.
Okay. So at this point, if you can give us a plan of where it is, how far it's gonna wrap around, we can come out and do a site visit, and take a look. At this point, it doesn't look like you'd
I
be
think
doing...
it was on the site plan.
Okay. Did we ever get a site plan for this?
We had a drawing.
We had a drawing?
And we had a base site plan from that engineer.
Yes.
And what is this a picture of?
That's the logs and...
Yep, yeah, I know where it is on the, you're taking a picture of this just to show us what's gonna get
what
cleaned
was
up?
what was there, and the next two photographs show it removed.
You did clean it up.
Oh, okay.
Do you have any pictures where that, where those structures were, there was a shed and it's...
They're still there. I'm gonna get a dumpster in there and get after it this weekend.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
I think it shows a double wall down along the shore there.
So at this point, we still have the active application, Matt?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So as the plan sits, as long as we can get it updated, that the wall will be put in the same location that the existing wall is in?
The original wall.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can see where the existing wall is kind of gone.
We can take a direct measurement off the attached porch.
Yep.
To points along there and...
Perfect, if you could add that to the plan.
Yeah.
If we have those exact measurements, so we know where the start points and end points are.
So what are we adding to the plan?
We are adding the distance from the fixed point of the house.
You mentioned porch,
I mean,
Requested
it's,
the what? The addition of what?
I think that's the porch. Yeah.
Those measurements are accurate to the wall it was in. And I also took a whole bunch of photographs.
Yeah.
Once I dug that out, to the point of the residue of the original wall, inch measurements, and it averaged out to be about 22 inches, 18 to 22 inches.
Well, we can just get it updated, so we've got a record of it.
Sure.
Myself, the only thing I would like to see removed from the plan is a proposed deck, as that's in the 30-foot no disturbance zone. And we have existing shed to be removed, existing tent to be removed. Timber area shall be removed.
That was the area, I think.
Yep, yeah, so, I mean, I would, prior to construction of the wall, if it have to be done in the wintertime when the water's down, get the rest of the proposed projects cleaned up.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, can I start, Mr. Dillon?
Yeah, I'm just looking. And did we have any pictures of the retaining wall that you're gonna, the second retaining wall?
This one here?
I thought I had left some here, but...
Okay, well, I mean, we should probably go out now that the wall's gone and take another look quick anyways, so. So that would be my suggestion, updating the dimensions on where the current wall exists and the new wall will be installed, and removal of the proposed deck from the plan submission. Then we can go out, take a quick walk, and then go forward.
Question.
Yes, Mr. Rabbit.
Is Judy Schmidt going to visit the site tomorrow, man? Still?
I can ask her to, if
Well,
that's
no,
all right.
I know
with-
she's coming out as DEP, and I don't see a need at this point.
I don't either, but
I think I'd like to keep it deep.
She's coming out to look at something else, you said, right?
she's coming up to, I can't, it's not on the agenda, so I really can't discuss, but it was a past issue that we already took off our agenda.
But it was not this.
No. Okay.
I agree with all the chair's comments. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's nice to see some progress being made.
Yes, thank you very much for finally moving forward with it.
Very good to see some progress. Appreciate it.
Unfortunately, you didn't have the best weather to continue. And
Yeah, what do you want to do about 2 feet of snow in March?
what are the fines currently?
The fines, they're about $600, and it was for the work that's already been done.
Yeah.
Mr.
How
Chairman.
far over the deadline was the work that we had asked to be done, we given the deadline of a certain date, right?
It was a couple of weeks anyway.
I mean, I think the intent of what, personally, what the intent was, when the work is done, I'd be in favor of waiving the fines.
I'd be in favor of waiving the fines when all the stuff the chairman just mentioned has been completed.
So why don't you suspend them temporarily?
Yeah, suspend them at this point. So we'll suspend them moving forward. Yeah, I mean, they have gotten what is generally what we like to see done. The fines kind of just give a little prodding, so, all right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, any questions, Mr. Thomas, on the requests to add to the plan?
I guess, to reconstruct the wall, it would be in the fall.
It would have to be, I would imagine, the water's down, so when do they open the gate valves?
They'll, well, it was October 15th usually.
So we're looking 6 months before you can really, I mean, the water has to be down below where you're gonna be putting it in anyway, so. Okay, that which gives us time to continue the permitting process and get the plans with the information. At this point, I'll accept a motion to continue with the applicant's permission for the plan to be updated, showing the proper dimensions of where the current wall is and the new wall will be built, and removal of the proposed deck. And that'll also give us a chance to go out and take a look at the secondary wall, just to refresh our memories.
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr.
We're still under an enforcement order for the remainder of those other items, the small building and the general cleanup. That's not part of this continuation? Are these two separate issues?
Well, I think we postponed the notice of intent until such time as the wall was removed.
Right.
So now that the wall is removed, now we can continue forward with the permitting process of notice of intent.
The other piece.
So is the enforcement complete at this point?
No.
Well, the enforcement was for the removal of the wall.
Wasn't it just also the building, the other material, as well as the...
Do you have it, the exact, the enforcement, Matt?
We only talked about the wall, and once that work...
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, and I know we have been on Mr. Thomas to finish cleaning up, and he does have removal of the shed, removal of the tent, and removal of the timbers on his plan that was submitted with his application. So that work he's asking for in his application.
It was for placement of the retaining wall.
Yes, so the wall itself was what the enforcement order was.
Because it was within...
So I think at this point, we can probably dismiss the enforcement order, as the wall's been removed.
I agree.
So I guess if we back up, if you remove your motion, yes, Mr. Pease.
Well, so then, if we take and we dismiss the enforcement order, and he doesn't go through his application, where are we?
You can always, well, we can give him a new enforcement order. I mean, the order was for removal of the wall that was illegally put there.
All right.
And he does have a permit, generally, you're issued an enforcement order, and the requirement of the enforcement order is submissions of a notice of intent to rectify the situation.
Thank you for clarifying.
And just one more clarification, as far as the fines go, because the fines are relative to the enforcement order, we can still suspend those for future review?
Yeah, because it was non-compliant to the original enforcement order, that's why...
So at this point, they're suspended, and we can talk about them some more.
Doesn't mean they go away.
We can continue with them if need be.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Dwyer.
With the wall having been removed, if moving forward, the applicant for some reason elected to not build a new wall, would we then want to, I guess, to close out the enforcement, what, should we put a condition on that if a new wall is not constructed, that the shoreline be revegetated?
You can do that in your order of conditions. Yep.
But I mean, to close out the enforcement, or is...
Yeah, you can do that
If we
too.
want to close it out, then I think we just put a condition on it that if it's not reconstructed, that the shoreline stabilized with vegetation.
I agree, because that shoreline right now is pretty fragile.
Yeah, it's all sand.
Yeah, I agree with Todd's recommendation.
Okay, and what was your recommendation again, to?
If the wall is not reconstructed in a period agreed upon by the commission, that the shoreline is stabilized.
Okay, yeah, we can do that in our notice of
And
intent.
revegetated.
I would say if the wall's not replaced this fall, that in the spring, that shoreline be revegetated.
I think, honestly, I think it's a good bet that given the fact that he's got the materials and it's your primary dock area, you'll have that done real quick.
Actually, in listening to some of the comments, I think that moving forward tomorrow, we should try to get some erosion matting and just drape it right down over there. It's
I don't know what that
thick,
is.
open
It's almost like
burlap.
a heavy burlap bag,
Yeah.
you can just put down over that eroded, not eroded, but that disturbed area to prevent any further.
And it'll help dissipate the wave action before it hits the soil and help protect the soil. If you just drape them right over, you may have to get a couple stones and just secure it on top of the wall and then on top of the soil.
I think that would go a long way to prevent any further damage.
I think so, yeah. So I think if you went through and did that as soon as you could, I think Paul Stone and Gravel and Proctor Landscape Supplies both sell the erosion matting, and put that in so that you don't end up with more erosion in there. So,
I think that would be pretty important.
yep, yeah, that is a good point.
I think S&M Farms as well would probably have lots of choices in that regard.
Out in the frickin' middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's in Fitchburg.
Yeah.
On Ash-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's where whenever I need to pick up straw walls, I go over there. Really? Yeah.
Does that come in a specific width?
I think it's generally you buy it 3 foot by 50 foot, 3 foot by 100 foot.
Yeah.
And they may even have some wire spikes to just secure it along. But yeah, it's just burlap netting that goes down, and that'll go a long way to help secure that, so. All right, so we'll accept a motion to dismiss the enforcement order under the caveat that the erosion protection will be in place within 7 days? Okay.
Do I need to?
Yeah, if you recuse, yeah.
I'd like to retract my earlier motion.
Okay. So I'll accept a motion to dismiss the enforcement order with the installation of the erosion protection.
I would make that motion.
Second.
Motion and second, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. And we will move forward with a notice of intent. I'll accept a motion to continue, allowing the applicant time to update the plan to show the dimensions and from the house of the new wall.
So what date are we talking?
How long to update the plan? Days?
I mean, well, yeah, I'll talk to Joe and see what he says. I mean, I could probably do it myself, but...
June 21st meeting?
Yep.
It's his plan, so...
June 21st works for you? June 21st.
Okay, so we'll
That's the
continue to
plan?
June 21st. Yep, so the plan, so if we can update the dimensions from the house, remove the proposed deck. And was there anything else on the plan? Okay. So accept that motion.
So moved.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Taking some action on this.
Were these our copies?
Yeah.
Just get him to sign and date them.
I just wanted to show you these real quick. These are the ones where they did their own drawings. So what I did with these guys in particular was I tacked their drawing to the order, so it will be recorded with the order itself.
Okay.
I just figured it was prudent in that case. Same thing with this guy. you know, the zones of planting.
Yep.
Tack the plan on that.
Okay, to the order of conditions.
Along with the photos of what he was going to do.
Good idea, yeah, he definitely needed some,
So that's tacked to his order, it'll be recorded on the deed that way.
yeah, we've already signed it. Perfect, all right.
That's why I did it that way.
Yep, okay.
Make sure there was no doubt as to what was...
June 22nd or June 21st?
21st, is that Wednesday?
Yeah, that's a Wednesday.
That is a Wednesday.
Yeah, from the 7th to the 21st.
Right. Mr. Chairman, just for advance notification, I will not be able to make that meeting.
The 21st or the 7th?
21st.
Okay. And now that you say that, I don't know if I'm gonna be here on the 7th. All right, moving forward, Emerald Place Beach.
I've seen a lot of work going on.
Yes, I did walk down on site with Matt and Anthony Cleese from Whitman and Bingham. And we're trying to get a berm probably 40 feet up from the edge of the water on the beach to keep all of the water from the buildings and the lawn areas from running down the beach into the lake, to run towards the parking lot and down the sluice way.
A berm or a trench?
We're trying, my suggestion was to regrade it.
I know a
So,
trench has been installed.
now the trench should have been from the parking area
Yeah.
down, and they're gonna rip wrap that.
Okay, that's done.
Yes, but the initial intent is to keep the water, right now, all the water from the parking area and the lawn and the road run right down the beach.
Oh, so the berm's gonna go between the parking area and the beach?
The berm's gonna go between the wall and the fence.
Along the parking area?
Yeah, further down from the parking area. Let me just,
I'm trying to envision where the berm's gonna go.
Are they gonna come back with a plan before they do this work?
Procedural question here, guys.
We're doing it now because it's part of our enforcement, because the beach was eroded way down. I mean, it eroded away so bad that the signs they had up fell down.
Yeah, I understand, Matt, but we were expecting to see a plan. I mean, even the last meeting, even the minutes, I didn't read too many of them, but, you know, it says that M&M working on engineering on alternative proposals, looking to have final proposal for next week's meeting. So we're expecting a proposal, not done
Yeah,
work.
there's been a lot of work that's been done.
have they started working on it?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
the trench is
I mean, I
done.
thought Anthony was gonna,
They've done a lot
Give
of
us a
work in a
proposal
30-foot
for it.
area.
There was a mini excavator and two bobcats
Yeah.
tearing around on the beach for 4 days.
Yeah, and I was there yesterday, and that rock trench thing is in, and then the riprap, and...
Okay, well, I mean, if this work was going on, and I was kind of detained on the other side because of enforcement, why didn't anyone tell me? I would have gone down and found out what was going on. Nobody told me.
Well, so what are we gonna do now? Because a lot of work was done without any approval to do work within that area. And I'm not sure, I think we need to discuss it, because what I see there looks exactly like what we told another applicant they could not do, and that's to create a trench that dumps the water in the lake.
I don't know see, I don't even know where the trench lets out. I know there's a trench there with pipe and stone, but I don't know where it lets out.
But again, my statement is, I can't be everywhere in town at once because I get detained on other things, and I know you guys understand that, but if you guys are standing on a beach, please don't wait until the meeting to bring it out and ask why I didn't present the plan. Please call me or send me an email and say, hey, Matt, there's a lot of work going on, do you know about this, can you check it out?
I think that does
'Cause
happen,
I had already gotten through chiding out National Grid for not doing what they were supposed to do, and I was actually been talking to the chairman about proposing a fine for them on the other side. So it's like, I got two issues going on over there now, one that I knew about, one that I didn't.
I'm not as excited about, to me, it's, they're working in sand, it's not like disturbing vegetation or anything like that, you know, they're working in sand, but I would like them to come in and show us a plan, so we can see.
and when we did meet, Anthony said that he was going to look at the grades to try to come up with a plan. I didn't realize that they were going out and working as fast as that. I didn't realize they were down there.
I mean, I think certainly him to come in with an as-built of what they've already done and what's proposed next would be the next step, as far as I would like to see.
I agree.
They do this at their own peril. That's the reality.
They certainly do the work at their own
And
peril,
and
if
if
it's
it's
not
an
approved.
engineering firm, they understand that, so I think we have the right
Involved in
to
this
demand it.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
we're
we've been yelling at them long enough. I mean, they're aware that,
Let's, for the next meeting for June 7th, let's get them in here. Request an as-built plan of what work has been done. And then what is proposed for going forward. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, me too. Because again, I have
you
this
can
issue with...
notify Anthony.
Because I know
Yeah, I'll talk to him in the morning.
control or anything like that on the beach while they were working.
There was none?
I didn't see them.
Well, I didn't, that thing was already there when I saw it, so they were already done there, and they were working on the parking lot. But what caught my eye is it looks exactly like what another applicant wanted to do with the erosion area, was to basically put riprap and stone and get it into the lake, and we said, you can't do that.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that that goes directly into the lake.
It does, the big riprap is the small stones, you know, that
It does, okay, I haven't seen the other end of it.
right along where it was, and then at the end of the small stones, the last 30, 40 feet is
Let's do a site visit
riprap.
also with it.
Okay, yeah, we can put it on for the,
The staff.
what would that be, the 2nd or 3rd?
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be worth the site visit, for sure.
Because basically, and unfortunately, this is a 2-year-old picture, but when I had met with Anthony and Matt, the beach is basically to end right here. That was what I had recommended to Anthony. He was gonna go back and check the grades to see if he could get the water from here down to this part of the site. I mean, the whole site slopes this way. I mean, this is a prime picture right here. They've got erosion here, they had erosion here, and it's something that's been continuing, so we have to stop the water from running down the beach. The water has always been running into the lake, so it has to be controlled at some point.
Yeah, they gotta get it in the
Yes.
ground, not
Yeah.
in the lake.
Yeah, and they were also supposed to take, and again, my recommendations when I was there, is to vegetate everything on that side of the pen, because they had all of their snow piling over here, so all of the gravel and broken tar is all in here, and,
Good vegetate all the way up to here, or?
well, right now, the beach kind of,
They brought in there like, no tar, it's like...
well, I think,
Regrind,
I
yeah.
think they had
That's not gonna be
permission for
pervious.
that.
What was this?
Yeah, they
That's
had
what they were doing
permission
when I was
for the
there, 'cause they told me,
parking. They had come before us for the parking area, for fixing that up. But then they have, you know, this is still all sand. So you get the water from the grass, runs onto the sand, runs down the beach. So we have to stop the water from shedding off onto the beach.
Because it's not only just doing it on that side, it was doing it on the other side as well.
Because, I mean, Anthony was talking about trying to bring a trench across here and bringing it over here, because this is an approved sluiceway for the water up on 274 Prospect, around Prospect Street, so. And he did say that historically, in that location, when I was on site, that was an asphalted sluiceway into the water. So the water from the roadway ran down there, so.
Okay,
So, and there was, I mean, there was evidence that was there, that was the case, so, but yeah, no, I mean, he was supposed to be reviewing that to make sure that the grading would work, so the water would run this way. So, yeah, if you can get him in for that and give us a plan, we can move forward with Anthony. 72, okay, 72 Page Street, Robert Yulo.
72 Page Street, I have an issue. Bob Yulo, nice enough guy, runs a business out of the back called Rebel Excavating, on the back of his property. It's right next to the South Cemetery. When I first joined the commission about 18 years ago, they were in the middle of an enforcement issue that I helped them resolve. Whereas Mr. Yulo had debris from his business, it was commercial debris, stockpiled in his yard, which was right in the buffer zone. Actually, it was going into the 30-foot no-touch at the time. It was a little bit of a battle to get them to pull it out, but they eventually did. And just recently, myself and the building inspector were alerted that the same thing was going on. I went down with the building inspector, we did a joint investigation along with members of the cemetery commission because they were concerned because the waste was coming right up to the wall, stone wall. Turns out Mr. Yulo was redoing the same thing, he was doing the same thing, stockpiling. I informed him, look, I gave him an enforcement order first off, I issued it immediately. Second thing was I got him together with him and the building inspector, we had a joint site inspection. both from our set of regulations and the local bylaw, he cannot store that type of debris on his personal property, even though he can park his equipment in the garages for his business. He can't store stockpiled debris or any type of supply materials out in the open like that in his yard. So he had two sets of regulations, he needed to pull them out. So we gave him basically, wrote a follow-up letter, both myself and the building inspector. It's one thing I love about working with this particular guy who's the interim commissioner. He likes doing joint inspections with me when we have these issues. It makes the continuity a lot nicer. So Mr. Yulo has until the end of the month to get it out. As of the end of last week, he actually started removing the material. I went down, took a look at it this afternoon. He is removing the material. Both the building inspector and myself are going to be keeping an eye on it to make sure he complies with the enforcement order. He contacted me immediately upon receiving the enforcement order. He's been extremely cooperative.
Good job, good job.
And there was also, I didn't put this on the agenda, but there was an incident on Reservoir Road with the power lots that Ron Coitvy now has. One of the lots was sold off last summer, Lot 5. I basically went out with the owner and said, explain the deed restriction for the riverfront that we all put on. Stood out there with him with his nice newly grassed lawn with the hay bales around it, said, he wanted to know, well, can I plant grass here? Can I do this? I'm like, no, you gotta leave it in its natural state. The most you can do is allow it to regrow, and if you trim it to make a little walking path, that's the most you can do. You have to leave this riverfront alone. It needs to grow back into its natural state. He had a lot of detritus that was piled from the logging activities. I told him if you want to take some of that out, he has to do it by hand. About 2 weeks ago now, bless you. About 2 weeks ago, I went by the site, and I see Tanner Cole with one of his pieces of equipment picking stumps out in the restricted area. And I'm like, I walked back, I said, don't tell me, Tanner, let me guess. This guy told you it's okay to put a lawn in. He goes, no, actually what he told me was, you said it was okay to grade all the way out to this tree, which was way out in the riverfront, and that I could loom and seed all this and make a lawn. I said, no, you can't, get out. And I explained to him about the deed restriction and that, this gentleman, his explanation, he was living an opposite day, as I like to call it. So I immediately fined the homeowner $100. The homeowner's wife did call me, we went over the restrictions, she's supposed to get me a list of tree plantings, I'm expecting that tomorrow. If I don't get anything, of course, I start poking her antenna. And I'm waiting for the fine to come in because they indicated they would pay it. If I have to send out a demand letter and things aren't mentioned, I'm going to issue another ticket. I'm doing that at my discretion, but I'm doing it simply because I sat there with the homeowner. I explained the deed restriction over the phone to him like 5 times, because, nothing personal against the gentleman, and I know everybody wants a lawn, and he was kind of hoping that there would be loopholes, so he kept asking me questions different ways, I think trying to look for loopholes in that order. When I told him that it was a deed restriction, that was it. He didn't seem convinced, which is why I asked him to go on the site before he closed, because the lawn was growing in, and we stood there and I said, lawn good here, nothing here. You cannot go past this point.
Did he put the boulders in?
It'd be great.
No, the boulders aren't in either, which is another thing that has to happen.
So he failed to put the boulders in, and he convinced everybody, oh, that's...
Hey, but we find them anyways without the boulders.
We're gonna have to make...
Well, I'm giving them a chance to cooperate before I start finding more. I'm gonna poke them tomorrow and give them another warning, because I haven't heard anything since, and if I don't get a resolution, tickets are gonna start going again.
Now, did the contractor fail to put the boulders in?
I don't know if the contractor failed. I remember seeing boulders on the site. Tanner may have moved them. I'll have to talk to Tanner about that.
Yeah, we haven't signed
He put it, well,
certificate of compliance.
Mr. Coyview put in for the certificate. I refused to even put it on consideration because I don't have an as-built.
The other thing that, on sort of on enforcement orders, I brought up to Matt today, he was already aware of it. Reservoir Road at the baseball field where the brook crosses, the town did a bunch of work through a contractor to replace, repair, do something to the culvert crossing. There was quite a bit of disturbance down to the wetland. I took some pictures of it, but that was unpermitted work that was done by a contractor.
Essentially, what had happened was, I had gone by, when I went by in the morning, the company had...
Which side of the baseball park?
On the left side.
Right at the parking lot, between the baseball field and the entrance to Shady Point where the road crosses.
Yep.
That big...
You know that swamp? The swamp right next to it? You have that big culvert right next to the swamp. So what happened was, they were slipping in a sleeve in the culvert. They weren't taking the road out, they were just slipping in the HDPE sleeve. Well, what they did wrong was, they sent a second excavator in, parked it facing the road to tap it, bucket, but it was sitting in the wetland. So I called up DPW and said, what are you guys doing? Jack didn't even know they were doing that because it was early in the morning. I mean, this was like 7:45 in the morning,
Now,
okay?
do you know what was the existing material of that culvert? Do you know? Was it concrete or was it?
No, it was metal.
All right, because, let me see the phone for a second. Because on one side, the lake side, there is a large concrete pipe that comes out now. And on the other side, there's, I guess it's plastic. So I mean, this is the lake side, there's a large concrete.
They may have repaired it.
Easterbrook?
It's the end of Easterbrook.
Yeah, they may have repaired it with concrete at one point.
Right where that little...
What they may have replaced, sometimes you have like what I call hybrid culverts, some of them are metal, part of it's concrete, that's a big size. It looks like they slipped in that culvert to cover rusty metal, which is very common.
Sure.
It's nice, it's non-intrusive.
So what was the encroachment?
Encroachment was...
Oh, a riprap?
They also made a road.
Oh, they drove all the way in there.
All the way down to...
And that's when I saw that, that's when I called Jack and said, you need to tell him to get out.
Yeah.
So...
We should tell them to revegetate that.
I did.
Well, it looks like they've already stabilized it.
But I gotta tell you, with the vegetation that's in there, by the time...
It'll grow back.
By the end of the summer, that you won't even know they were there.
Yeah, but
No, I'm sure they won't, but I mean, that just going forward, we need to be notified and it should...
I've already spoken to Jack, and he's assured me that he's going to do that.
What is the process of permitting when it's town work?
They need to file.
Same thing, file?
I just don't think there's any fees.
There's no fees.
There's no fee, and for the road work like that, I think there's some exemptions built in the bylaw as well.
Yeah.
From the 30-foot and stuff. Because of that, if there wasn't, they could never change a culvert out.
Right, no, but I mean, they should be...
Yeah, they still, I think it's within the right-of-way there is exemptions, but that clearly, the access was clearly outside of the
No, I'm not talking about
right-of-way.
exemptions from filing, I'm talking about exemptions from like the no-touch zone.
Correct, yeah.
There were exemptions for them for that, not from filing.
No, I don't think so.
If actually, well, I mean, I could pull up the
I
bylaw.
also, you know,
Yeah, but within the road's right-of-way, I don't think the access outside of that necessarily exempts them. I mean, it would be a limited project because they're going in and coming back out, but they would still have to file, so. All right, and on that vein, I had contacted Matt, National Grid's contractor putting the gas line into Unitil. Kind of funny way to say it. They never notified Matt that their erosion protection was in place, so it was never inspected, and it wasn't installed to plan. So, the problem I have, number one, it's a national company, they should know better. The contractor that did this gas line also started working last year for Unitil at the church and never filed for their crossing. They just started working right through the wetland crossing. So at this point, I would think that their new intrusion should warrant a fine where they are habitual offenders.
Okay, too. If it's the same company, it's the same thing twice.
Yeah, and then even after being caught, they still didn't finish putting the erosion protection in. Really? Yeah, and I mean, it's all in their plan, they were supposed to put in silt socks, they have it clearly marked where the wattles were supposed to go, they put in half the wattles.
The silt socks are all on them. They look like they're...
After they were called, that's when they put those in, but again, yeah. So,
You should have seen them jump when I started barking at their consultant.
yeah, they should, but again, it's the same company, Nuco, that did the work last fall without applying for it, so. And what was your recommendation on a fine, Matt?
$600,
Okay.
just to send in the message.
How many days? How many days were they in violation?
That's 1 day, $300 for 2 violations.
2 violations.
1, failure to adhere to the scope of the determination.
Yeah.
Okay? And 2, failure to put up the erosion protection as required under the determination.
You need a motion?
Yeah.
So moved.
A motion, do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, so we'll send them a ticket on that.
I had one other thing, kind of an enforcement. On 2A, when you're driving by the Cowdrey lot, somebody took a truck in one of those accesses before the parking lot, headed towards
I
Sherwood.
noticed the cable was down.
Yeah, there's one area that has a cable on it, and there's one area that historically, I think it just had trees in front of it for a while. It looks like somebody moved a lot of debris that was kind of blocking that. So it's something we should address. I haven't been out in the Cowdrey lot at all this year, which is embarrassed to say, usually I'm out there a lot. So I don't know how far they went in, if they just parked, but you can clearly see where there's some truck ruts that weren't.
Would a locked chain stop that, or do we need to take further measures?
I think a chain would stop that. I would just, I would put some kind of reflective something on it.
I would volunteer my shirt for you to scoop up a lock and some chain.
I got plenty of money, I can do the lock and the chain. Where do you want it?
Driving down 2A headed towards Shirley, it's one of the first accesses into the Cowdrey lot.
Can you do me a favor? Can you just draw me a map of it, or just
Well, is
something?
that the
flag it out
access
for
that the
me?
water department used when they went to do the testing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
There was a cable there.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would suggest, Matt, if you can,
Cable with a white pipe or something?
Yes.
make sure to get the white pipe,
yeah,
so that the white pipe, the chain goes through the white pipe,
yeah, something that.
where you see the chain, so.
Hey,
yeah, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pick up on that comment, we've got some money.
Yeah,
Is there a chance we could get some signage for the trails?
That's actually one of the things I have earmarked for the money, is to get more of the no ATV tags and the trail tags. I want to get a bunch of those.
Trail nameplates, because people go in there and they go, what trail is this? I'm kind of lost. You know, you run into people all the time.
If you
"How do I
guys have
get out of here?"
suggestions on nameplates you want me to get, I can order those as well.
Or little wooden plaques or something. This is, the...
I figure I've got some extra dough for that stuff, now is the time to do it.
Different color trail markers does that better than signs.
Yeah, and then we have to, but then we have to get a map to folks to understand how to get out of here.
Well, that's where we're gonna get that GPS information from our...
Yeah.
From the forest.
Yeah, the GPS data.
We got to, so,
the example contract and a rough quote from Mr. Goldrick.
I'm still waiting for him to send me that.
If we can repoke him and invite him to our June 21st meeting to review the forest cutting procedures for small town forest.
Should we vote on the lock and chain and allocating money to buy that, or is that something that Matt can do?
I can just do it.
Something Matt can do.
Okay. So Matt, yeah, like I said, it's where they put in the test well. It's that access. So I don't.
Okay.
First one right after Elwood, or not right after, but coming in that way.
That's where the land starts to go back out into the swamp area, so, okay. All right. Moving forward, so Forest Steward grants, implementation, I believe that the paperwork is all set and has
Yeah.
been submitted to the state for our reimbursement, and then they pay directly to...
They'll pay it to us.
Oh, they pay it to us?
They'll give us a check and then we mail it to
Okay,
Gary.
all right. All right, so that works forward. I did meet quickly with Adam. I believe from what we talked about, the revolving account has no cap in how much can go in there, but I believe it does have a spending cap annually that we can spend out of it.
It was $10,000.
Yeah, so that's the spending cap. Any monies that come out of there, we do need approval to spend. So it's not just monies that we can vote, the 7 of us to spend, we do need to get, I believe, just Board of Selectmen.
didn't we vote on something at town meeting to say $5,000?
It was 10,000.
Was it 10,000?
Yeah.
Because I thought it was 25, but it actually was 10.
10,000.
And I think maybe going forward, we need to think about at town meeting changing that. If there's a lot of money in there and we're gonna use it for property acquisition, then we need to think about upping that.
Okay, well, if we get to the point we get more than 10 in there.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yep.
At some point too, the bylaw needs to be updated. That needs to go before town meeting. A lot of the language is not correct. You know, it's RFD versus RDA, stuff like that. Not a big deal.
Well,
And I also...
no. I mean, technically, when you apply for the bylaw, you are requesting a determination, period. So they file the state, either an RDA or an NOI, they concurrently file for a determination under a bylaw. There's only a determination under the bylaw. There's not an RDA, there's not an NOI. So an RFD is the only process in which people apply the bylaw. That's why it's an RFD. There's no different levels of it. So that's why it's listed that way, because we don't...
It's confusing when you read the two documents, because I know when I first joined the commission, it took me forever to figure out what's an RFD, what's an RDA, what's this, and then I'm like, oh, they're all the same thing.
Well...
But so I'm just, for the average homeowner, it's probably very confusing.
Yeah, they technically aren't. I mean, you're applying two distinctly different applications. One's under the State Wetland Protection Act, and one's under the town's local bylaw.
But we still have some work to do on that whole process, too.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, on a peripheral related issue, land acquisition, did anything come out of that yet? I mean, you had put together the targeted list and we had...
I don't know how that's going to go, but I know that the towns, I think they're pursuing it.
Yeah, they did talk about it, and I think they're still reviewing the lists.
Updated the maps.
Because I believe that, is it Helena? Went to the selectmen's meeting with, Mylene, went to the selectmen's meeting with an additional list for this year, so I know they're still discussing it, but it sounds like...
Be kept in the loop as far as that goes.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty good opportunity.
Oh, yeah. From the town manager.
And honestly, in the discussions, less than 2% of all properties that go to court for tax title actually end up with the town acquiring the property. 98% of all of those properties that have delinquent taxes on them pay.
Pay it up.
Yeah, so it sounded like they're selling off the rights to the amount that is due.
But some of them, once they were on the list, they were going to pursue trying to take the properties, I believe.
I think what they do is...
I think they were
sell
still
them off to
kind
a
of...
collection agency.
Yeah, basically, it's a collection agency, because it sounds like, so the collection agency accepts all of the rights to foreclose on properties, then they pay the taxes. Then they send the landowner, we've paid your taxes, now you owe us, plus interest. And then they continue to pay the taxes the whole time that they have the rights, if I understood it correctly. So while they're going through all of the procedures, they continue to keep the properties tax-free. So they're continually paying the taxes, turning around and charging the landowner and adding the interest. So it's basically, they're just looking at it from an interest standpoint. Because I almost fell over when I think they said the interest rate was 16%.
The other process, though, was a court process, though. There was an actual land-taking process.
Oh, well, yes, and they continue to pursue that. Yeah, but they have, a whole horde of lawyers getting paid by the 16% interest that they're getting charged, that eventually people just, from the sounds of it, 98 out of 100 of them pay, so it didn't sound like it was, all of that land's gonna go to tax title and town's gonna get it.
No,
Sounds like most of
there
it.
was a list that they were going to pursue going to court to try to take.
Yep, and they did mention the list, so.
We should get an update, because there was a workshop that the selectmen had on this subject, and they went through, and their mission, I didn't hear the results of it, was to put it into 3 groups. One is sell to lien, one was foreclose, and the other was do nothing. Because some of these things made sense to do nothing, they weren't worth
Nice to
anything.
have representation at one of those workshops, whereas we would be the beneficiary of getting that land.
Okay.
But an update would be great.
All right, let's see what we can get from Adam. All right, so everybody was in agreement on the 21st for a public hearing on the forestry plan?
Yeah, I think the ball is rolling on this thing. I think we need to keep the momentum going on it.
Yeah, and we do have time right now, because they can only do it November through March because of the ACEC. So, and it's a perfect piece of property, because it's certainly deemed necessary. And if we can get the public involved, that would be great. And that gives 2 opportunities prior to Approval of minutes. Are we at a position where we can approve some minutes?
The number of these just came out like within the last 2 days.
Okay.
I glanced at them, and a couple of them I want to go back and look at the tapes.
All right.
But there was one, the one on here that's been on the books for a while is the 329 one. I haven't seen the final map. If my inputs were incorporated, then we may be able to move forward on that one.
Right, I haven't incorporated your finals on those yet because,
Okay. All right.
I just sent everything out as draft for everybody's. I mean, there were other stuff like there were actually only 2 minutes that you guys didn't have any draft versions of, and that was the 1st and the 15th. The other ones I had sent out draft versions to you guys from the last 3 meetings. I just didn't have a chance to finish up those 2 because it's been so busy in the office. People coming in and out for filings and questions.
But the 329 you didn't send out recently, that's pretty old.
Yeah, you're correct, and I didn't incorporate the changes, but I just sent them out, so I figured I'd get that done when the other changes came in.
Okay.
All right, let's make it a priority to at least get March's minutes, if we can. Approval ready for next meeting. Home and Street Property Program.
Home and Street, I don't have anything new. I don't know if you do, Bob. I haven't been out there at all.
I have not, I'm going out there tomorrow. I had a question, listening to the tape of the last meeting, and,
Our meeting, selectmen meeting?
Your meeting.
Our meeting, yeah.
I was in Peru, and,
We have the internet in Peru?
I listened to the plane on the way back. And I heard Matt say he was going, that there was going to, I heard Jack say there's going to be a festival out there, and I heard Matt say he was going to invite the people from that festival into this meeting, and I was wondering what happened to that.
What festival?
That's the Holman Street thing, and what happened with that was that the permission that they got from the Board of Selectmen was actually before our meeting. So I wound up working through the tech division with them. That was the, that's
Oh, I don't
that's
think
the
they got
campground thing.
permission. Did
They
they?
got an approval last night.
They got the approval.
Last night they got it, okay.
Because that was supposed to come and
I haven't
meet
watched it
with
then.
us.
They're not gonna be on conservation land, there's no reason to be with us.
They're not gonna be on the conservation land, and they're not doing anything that would trigger a notice of intent filing.
Nothing within
Nothing.
100 feet of the...
Well, they're gonna be walking near the pond, but they're not, there's no structures, there's no, I mean, there's nothing that needs.
Did you had a tech meeting on it, didn't you?
Tech meeting on it, then I had it in the office, I drew out the maps of our property, drew a black line along the boundary and said, you cannot go over this with your activities. If you guys want to walk our trails and maybe fish in the stream, if you can catch something, great. You cannot take your cars and you cannot park them in our parking lot for an extended period. That is not allowable.
Just out of curiosity, what's the festival?
It's called the Unifier Festival.
Yeah.
They've had it in the past in Tallinn, Mass, and I guess they're in the process of trying to buy the place where they usually have this festival, and they can't have it there because there's a P&S on it, so this is a temporary location where they're gonna have it. It's like, for lack of a better term, it's like a hippie thing. I don't know, it's like a new age dance.
Yeah, they had gone to the ZBA to do this continually, and I think this is just a one-time
This is a one-time
application.
application.
Okay.
Is it gonna be on the other side of the Multis on that piece of
Yep,
property?
it's on the old property.
It's actually, Lane House is going to act as a core in terms of...
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like exactly what they put before the ZBA, only they just asked for a one-time
A
permission.
one-time 5-day license.
Yeah, when Matt, I was there on the fire department, but
Like the same music area.
there were more Board of Health issues than there were anything for us.
And
Well,
Mr.
and-
Gareffi, even with the approval, I talked to Mr. Gareffi this morning, he still has issues.
And I think they were gonna meet with Board of Health.
They did, the Board of Health said it was okay, but he still has issues.
Okay.
So he's gonna be addressing those with the board.
Yeah, so there's no impact. It didn't look like there was, as long as their activity stayed on their property, so. All right, Stormwater Committee.
Stormwater Committee met last week. Basically, we've had, as you might have heard, we got that Community Compact Award for $25,000 to be used towards stormwater activities. We kind of spelt out, defined what we're going to try and accomplish, and that was going back to the selectmen. Public outreach to include town boards, part of our requirement for the MS4 is to how do we reach out to the public, and in fact, the cruise night was one of the things that came out of that. This is one of the ways. We've got about a dozen different, well, 4 major groups we've got to go address, and we're developing messages for each one of them, but the cruise night seemed like an easy one. And when, some of the things, we're trying to, not only we're gonna do the raffling, but we're gonna try to create a little bit of awareness of something floating around, what is the stormwater piece, urge people to start washing their cars on their own lawns versus in the driveway, use bio-friendly soap, that kind of thing. So that'll happen out of that. Discussion, we're sitting down with the contractors next session. Okay, what is it we really have to get done for 2017? There's nothing really sitting there, and that looks like it's impossible to meet. And they wanted we just did an update with regard to our outreach program, the educational component of it. We were meeting with Roxy. She's taking the lead for the school system. She's building stuff that we're kind of feeding in, including some of our stuff. And there's an interest in saying, can we sit down with them and look at what the curriculum looks like, both the forestry program and we're going to try and initiate a poster contest with all the kids. Best part of the science fair, and all the parents will see it. That'll start going in that direction. So that, don't forget, you can buy your combined rain barrel and composter for $80.
On that note, who bought were those bought on the rain barrels, they bought with a grant?
A grant, yeah, there was a $5,400 grant, and
So that was town money that...
I think it came from state. It was
So
state.
the money, like, when people buy those, where does the money go back to the town?
Goes back into a revolving fund to
Because
reinvest
I'd
it.
like to get one of those rain barrels for the pollinator habitat. So I think that was something we'd have to
I think
purchase, or if we can get one.
if it's something that's the public's gonna see, I bet you can get one donated.
Who would I have to go to for that?
All right, we could talk about that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
so that's it for us right now.
Action reports, agent report, 675 Reservoir, you kind of reviewed that already.
I reviewed that because, I was gonna report on the staking activity.
Did we sign the amended notice of intent for a neighboring property?
Yeah, it's in the pile here.
Okay, we did get that. Drought status review?
As of May 1st, the Commonwealth has declared the drought over. So anyone submitting photos of a dried riverfront under the standards of the Wetland Protection Act after May 1st, those are now acceptable as evidence again.
All right, and has anybody had a chance to go out to the crossing between the two properties owned by Danny Gardner?
Oh, yeah.
How's that looking?
It's looking awesome.
Okay.
It's looking beautiful. I mean,
Water
the water is flowing perfect, back to the way it was. The stuff is starting to grow in. The only activity I see on there that, I don't really like, obviously, is the dirt bikes. But I was even walking out there one day, and there were 3 quail off in the distance, and I haven't seen quail in that area in forever. Other than that, it's been silent. He is trying to get house lots, like 3 of them, on the outer buffers on part of Electric Ave, but that's it.
All right. And our next meeting...
Just, Mr. Chairman, on that point, though, could we get an update of where we are with the 101? In general, because there was remediation work to be done, there's fines outstanding, we were going to give them our notices so that we could go actually...
We did do that. I gave him demand notices along with every citation that we issued to him, and he didn't respond, and then I turned it over to Adam at this point.
So I know there was like a 21, you had to have a demand notice, and there was a 21 days...
That's right, and he didn't respond.
So that 21 days is done?
It's over.
Okay, so do we know what Adam is doing?
I don't know what Adam is doing.
Can we find out for next meeting?
We'll get an update for the 6th. And I know that Matt does have the 90-day prior to the end of the bond on his calendar.
Yeah, I've been kind of watching that, because I just don't see any activity on that property, and I'm not convinced I'm going to be seeing any activity. He tried to start a couple of times, and I told him, no, you weren't finished with the work that you had to do ahead of time to start his forestry, so I would let him start back up, stopping him. And he's been concentrating now more on Chase Road down the street. He did tell me, I gave him until the end of the week to give me a copy of the as-bills that we asked for over there. I do know that they've been done by David Ross. Neil Gorman did them. I did talk to Neil Gorman, and he said that the driveway and the wells and everything were in place where they should be. I'm just waiting for the as-bills, because I want to go over and measure that and compare it to the clearing in the back. His boulders look like they're where they're supposed to be. I'm just not convinced that the total clearing he did in the back was what was approved on the plans.
Mr. Chairman, one other question under sort of action, agent reports. Earlier in the meeting, there was a mention about the DEP agent coming out, and I know we can't discuss things in this meeting, but I think we can share what we know about why they're coming out.
Because they wanted to look at something that we had taken off our calendar at the behest of one of the abutters, Harry. The Jacobsons.
Oh, okay, all right, so that's what they're coming out for?
They just want to take a look at what was done.
Okay, thank you.
And have you been invited on the walk?
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
And when is that?
Tomorrow at 1:30.
You meeting here or out there?
We're meeting up there. Did you get a notice from the guy? I thought I sent you a notice on my calendar.
I don't think I did, no. I haven't gotten any calendar notifications. All right, and moving forward, our next scheduled hearing is June 7th over at the Ritter. At this point, Mr. Rabbit said he is not going to be here.
No, I won't be here for the 21st.
Okay.
I'll be here for the meeting, I won't be here for the walk-around.
Okay. And I did happen to do a quick walk up on 120 West Street. They did have the foundation in place. They had all of the erosion protection in place, hadn't damaged any of the trees. All of the work had been done from the roadside reaching in.
Is that the really steep lot?
Yeah.
The one that they appealed to DEP.
Yeah, where they were putting the foundation on the top there. Unfortunately, the tree that had that railroad tie, or the big piece of metal grown around it is gone, so which is too bad. But yeah, that looked good. The erosion protection was in place, there was no erosion going on, so. All right, any other questions or comments?
Yes, Chairman, I have three items, and I will try to be as brief as possible, because I want to get out of here as quickly as possible. Somewhere on somebody's Facebook page, there was a picture and sort of a general complaint about, there's a bench at the Hubbard Memorial in the Cosby lot. It sits up on the hill, there's a granite, the granite, whatever it is, memorial to Hubbard, who was a Vietnam vet. There used to be a bench up there. The bench was chained to the tree. Somebody broke all of the slats off the bench and must have burned them or something. So the metal ends of the two park benches are still chained to the tree, but the bench is gone. So I don't know.
That bench was in very rough shape to begin with.
So I don't know if going forward, if we ever get any money, maybe we could put a granite sitting bench or something there, but just, so maybe we ought to go out and get those out of there.
And I apologize, Matt had got an email and he forwarded it to me, and I completely spaced it. He forwards me some of the complaints about some of those. I meant to follow up and ask what the vandalism, which bench it was.
I think maybe we just need to go get the metal ends out of there and then walk forward.
I have the key.
Oh, you do?
So I'll try to make a note to do that. I have the key to go there. We can pull the trash out of there. It's a good excuse for me to do a hike and get out there.
Awesome, thank you. The next thing I had was, I came across, I was doing some just internet browsing. There's a thing called, there are some grant programs out there for conservation land purchase, but also for parks. It's called a park grant. And it's for development of sites that the municipalities already own. It looks like we could use it to do some work at some of our conservation land improvements. Basically, I think it's up to 64% reimbursement for our community size.
Those are state or federal?
State.
State.
Through, I don't know if it's DCR or if it's, it's DCS, Department of Conservation, I don't know. It looks like, unfortunately, the lady that manages the program, we had two public meetings about it today and tomorrow, so she was out of the office at those meetings. It looks like a community under 35,000 can put in for up to $50,000 grant. That's the population cutoff. And then above 35,000, you can put in for like $200,000. So I'd like to try to contact her. I'd like to look at Hollis Road, trail improvements, parking improvements, and the construction of an outdoor classroom that pollinator habitat. Just kind of spitballing off the top of my head today, I don't know if I thought it was a good idea or not to just look into.
I'm in favor of it.
It looks like you have to have town meeting approval for it, and there were some deadlines that I want to ask her about if we could meet them. Still, the deadline for the grant, I think, was July 12th. So there's a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just talk to her and see if we were eligible.
Yep.
And if the time would work out, if we were too late, then maybe next year.
Or the special town meeting in the fall.
I think that's probably what it would be, is you have to get approval at the special town meeting in the fall.
Yep.
We need to make sure, though, that our open space plan is still
That was one of the-
valid enough to be, I don't think it's eligible right now because our open space plan
You have
expired.
to have a valid open space plan.
Yeah, when it's
And I think
expired.
ours is expired, but if it's being worked on, I don't know if that's, there's some caveat in there like that, but I'll ask her about that. So I think there's some opportunities out there that we can look at that are really cool.
Who does the open space plan?
I was just about to ask how that was coming. I thought that you had met Matt.
Yeah, I'm waiting for some information to come back from, well, Adam was gathering stuff and Brandon was gathering stuff, and then we're gonna reconvene.
Okay.
If you need, not that I need other stuff to do, but if you need somebody else to help you with that, I'd be willing to do it.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Actually, they had done a great job
Yeah, no,
5 years ago, so to
I think
update it at this
updating
point
shouldn't be difficult.
shouldn't be difficult.
The only other thing I had was, at a meeting a while ago, I think maybe January, we had, no, actually, it was before that, in November or October, we had appropriated up to $1,000 to spend on the pollinator habitat for seed and plants and stuff. We spent $190
$190 even.
I got a quote from New England Wetland Plants for $586.50 for a whole ton of plants that we need to get planted up there to get this going. So I don't know if you guys want to take any action on that. We'd like to, June 10th and 11th is when we'd like to start doing some planting up there so we can get things in the ground for this season. So I don't know if you guys want to talk about that real quick, but I think we've already appropriated up to that $1,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you guys previously appropriated $1,000. I can have more money put into it.
So it's still submitted under that? If we approve 1,000?
Go through the procurement process?
Yep.
And it's through the same vendor that we provide the seed as doing the wetland plants in Amherst. So there's already a PO that should be open.
Okay.
I don't think any action needs to be taken. I think let's keep
You want to check into continuing that?
Yeah, well, the PO's already open, I can just ask them to add more money to it.
I just wanted to...
When does the PO expire? The end of the year?
Yeah,
The
July.
30th?
End of June.
Yeah, end of June.
Okay, so we've got about a month, 6
Yeah.
weeks.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I'm gonna check, because I think I might have enough money to squeeze a bench. Not a granite bench, but one of those regular park bench issued. I think I can get them from Industrial Global Supply, which is where I get park benches for some open space areas I have in Sterling, for like a few $100. And they're sturdy, they're real sturdy chairs that are made for outside in parks, and they're weather tested.
I know there's at least 2 that need to be replaced. There's actually, I can think of 3. There's actually another one that's got no legs to it. So there's 3 that were good that are bad now.
So let me see if I have room for a couple more.
But really 2 were well used. One was just kind of off and one of the, doesn't, I'll just try to get rid of the trash.
All right, so we'll look into that. All right, any other questions or comments from commissioners?
Oh, I have one.
I don't know if the
My
other...
yard is infested with milk snakes, eastern milk snakes.
Hey, Jack, follow the red line.
I just got one comment, just so you guys are aware, I'm gonna take the Kubota out there to do the bench work.
Yeah.
Just so you know. I'm gonna try to go out there this weekend.
So when somebody calls me and says, there's somebody out there with an excavator.
You can call me and say, it's my time.
All right. At this point, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I smoke you, sure.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye, good meeting.
4:10.
4:10.
8 o'clock, I said, boy, I was gonna say, we took through a last meeting. That was nice and quiet. What's that?
Broadcast tonight.